Warrior Lore. Chapter 580 Counterattack. Chapter 580 Counterattack. Starlight was moving around Yin as he was flying like a rainbow. He crossed Tin Li in a few seconds. The shady firmament old mound was a vast area. There were many effective barriers in the region. He was lucky that he had the skybreaking shuttle. Once he recognized that he had fallen into a barrier, he used it immediately. Gliding above many shabby and worn-out graveyards, Yin stayed quiet to concentrate his mind and spirit. He didn't dare to relax, even though the fiery flame of the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame was still covering him. The demonic Sound clan understood soul techniques very well, but the Ghost Mark clan was much older than them. Of course, they were more profound in this aspect. He had already experienced this. Without the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame, he believed his sea of consciousness would have collapsed, and his host soul would have perished. The Ghost Mark clan had many hotshots. Besides the two sages, they had around 10 spirit realm warriors who had a deep knowledge of using soul techniques. If they attacked Yin, his sea of consciousness or his soul would be affected. He didn't dare to be careless. Around 10 clansmen of the Ghost Mark clan were chasing after him. However, as they had learned from experience, no one dared to use soul attack on him. Their sages' soul attacks were useless, and they even got hurt. Of course, these clansmen were wise enough. They are not going to attack him using soul power. Holding the Sky Destroyer, Yin gradually cleared his mind. He was urging his essence chi while reasoning. This time, when the Ghost Mark clan could see the sunlight again, they would make a big move. Once they let the Ghost Mark clan have the time they needed to restore their power, this divine great land would have a big catastrophe. First, it was the Dark Spirit clan in the Dead Soul Mountain range, and today, the Ghost Mark clan appeared in the shady firmament old mound. They were 2 of the 10 ancient clans in the antiquity time. These 2 tribes had been confined for so many years. Their energies were damaged badly. However, their foundation stood still. In this era, these 2 clans just needed a period to restore their power. Shortly, they would become the Novi. Whether it was the Dark Spirit clan or the Ghost Mark clan, they all had a big loathing towards the mankind. Once they had their power back, it would be the great calamity to human beings. Why was it so coincidental? The Dark Spirit clan and the Ghost Mark clan appeared almost at the same time. Was something about to happen in this land? A series of thoughts crossed his head swiftly as he vaguely felt something inappropriate. Members of the Ghost Mark clan were still chasing behind him. They were like a pack of hungry wolves that would never stop until they could tear and chew him off bloodily. According to the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame, the demonic Sound clan had originated from the Ghost Mark clan, but it had been countless years. Perhaps the Ghost Mark clan themselves had never heard about the demonic Sound clan and the relation between them. He had a relationship with the demonic Sound clan, so he shouldn't turn his back to the Ghost Mark clan. Originally, he had thought that he should form a relationship with the Ghost Mark clan. But when he thought about the wicked resentment in the sage's eyes, he couldn't help but erase that thought. Yin halted after flying for 1 hour. Holding the divine sword, Yin breathed evenly. With a calm complexion, he summoned the war devil. He contemplated for a while, then called the ghost hunter and the king of demonic insects. He waited nonchalantly in a broken tomb. Not long afterward, members of the Ghost Mark clan arrived one by one. There were 7 of them, and all had the spirit realm cultivation base. Warrior Lord, the leader, had his long hair braided, accompanied by an archaic, strange face. He was a 3rd sky of spirit realm warrior, with sharp and cold eyes, whose name was Lu Hao. As the chief imperial bodyguard of the holy temple of the Ghost Mark clan, Lu Hao had a profound realm and experience in fighting. He stopped curtly, then gently rose his arm. 6 members of the Ghost Mark clan behind him landed slowly. They then scattered around Yin, centering him. "Come back with us," Lu Hao didn't say unnecessary words. "You have the trace of our tribe's soul technique. You should have some knowledge of our tribe's soul techniques. Come back with me and explain yourself. The sages won't trouble you. We arrived at this land again, but everything here is strange to us. We need men like you to serve us." In the antiquity time, the Ghost Mark clan had many humans as their servants, who did the strenuous work like exploiting the mines. At that time, although mankind had been getting stronger gradually, a major part of them was still weak. They were the servants of the bigger tribes. A group of them had permanent soul seals, which were sent to the organizations of human beings to be the insiders. Lu Hao knew how to treat mankind. He also understood their weakness. That's why he didn't take action right when he met Shi Yin. Shi Yin listened to his advice quietly, but he wasn't moved. I think you've misunderstood something, right? Lu Hao was astounded. He frowned and said, Our sages are at the peak of true God realm. Besides them, we have another support. Taking back this land again is just a matter of time. You should submit early. When we unify the whole land in the future, you can be one of our dependencies. Why don't you want that? Lu Hao bragged about their future with an arrogant face, as though he thought that the Ghost Mark clan should be the master of the entire divine Great Land. Oh, really? Shi Yin smiled. Then wait until your Ghost Mark clan finishes uniting this land. You can come and tell me again. Lu Hao got enraged, thundering, You don't know how to appreciate favors. Shi Yin curled his lips, swinging the Sky Destroyer in his hand. A blood-red dragon soared up, darting to Lu Hao. A destructive and deadly willpower released from the blood-red light dragon. The evil, dreadful aura flooded the area instantly. 7 clansmen of the Ghost Mark clan changed their complexion. Show them some of your colors, Shi Yin rumbled. War Devil, Ghost Hunter, King of Demonic Insects, the devouring gold silkworm flew out, deploying their ferocious attack wave. You haven't even restored 20% of your power, but dare to brag about yourself in front of me. Do you know how to write the word death? Shi Yin grinned, his eyes cold and ruthless. He wasn't afraid of these 7 people, but he was actually scared of the 2 sages, the true God realm experts of the Ghost Mark clan. He had fled away a really long distance. Before he had left, he had provoked the greed of Lei Mo and Gong Sun Tao. At this time, perhaps the 2 true God realm sages of the Ghost Mark clan couldn't even take care of themselves. Thus, he could relax and deal with the chasers. Those 7 hotshots of the Ghost Mark clan were all at Spirit Realm. Under typical circumstances, even with the assistance of the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter, he wasn't their opponent. Anyway, these 7 warriors hadn't restored their competence yet. Right now, they were like an arrow at the end of its flight. They had never thought that Shi Yin had kept many demonic beasts and a dangerous puppet in his blood vein ring. When the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter diffused their brutal aura, Lu Hao's group of 7 changed their faces. It was now that they got to know Shi Yan's level. Well, you've pursued me for that long. Right now, your spirit's high. I'm not gonna run more, so we can play for a while. Shi Yin cracked a smile, his face dark and wicked. Your father here wanted to be tender to you, but it's you who don't know how to appreciate favors. You shouldn't blame me, really. Chapter 581, Fierce Battle. Chapter 581, Fierce Battle. The 7 warriors of the Ghost Mark clan were all at the Spirit Realm. Lu Hao, the leader, had the most exquisite cultivation base. He had reached the peak of Spirit Realm and had an ancient aura. The Ghost Mark clan was much stronger than the Demonic Sound clan. They didn't have the weakness of a weak body. The ghost scripture on each of them was a kind of peculiar martial spirit. Some scripture could help them to train their bodies, which could make their physical prowess much more vigorous and tenacious than warriors who had cultivated physical techniques. 2 out of 7 in Lu Hao's group belonged to this type. These 2 had purple and green ghost tattoos. They were exquisite like complex arrays, sparkling strangely as they were constantly taking in the heaven and earth aura around. The spiritual aura of heaven and earth was sucked into the ghost scripture, then converted into flows of pure energy to nurture their blood and bones, which made their bodies inexplicably powerful. These 2 clansmen relied on their tenacious bodies, walking to the front of Lu Hao and the other. They were ready to encounter Shi Yan's attack. The blood-red dragon created by the Sky Destroyer sprayed out scarlet rays of light. Its aura brutally soared up to the sky. Along its way, Yin Qi in the tombs around was washed away. Amidst the thick, bloody scent, the dragon stormed over. The ghost tattoo on the 2 clansmen suddenly moved like worms. Strange fluctuations moved in their bodies, as if it was forcing the movement of heaven and earth power to change its trajectory. The shriveled bodies of these two clansmen became robust. They were even getting taller. Veins bulged under their skin, which gave people a feeling of energy and vitality. They were like the Devil Clan. Howl! The two of them shouted in unison. Their voices shook the sky, as a flow of pure strength burst out from their spirit and bodies. Their arms enlarged. Flows of light that naked eyes could see were streaming towards their fists. Shortly, their fists turned translucent like jade, shining beautifully. Surging energy could even strike people's hearts. Crack, crack, crack. It was beyond people's expectations that their fists suddenly exploded. In the bloody mist, punches burst off like hammers and mountains. Bang! The blood dragon storming towards Lu Hao and his group shook under the bombardment. Its refined blood light flickered unsteadily. After the two clansmen exploded their fists, they were stirred up, recklessly swarming towards Shi Yin with a savage expression. Their veins burst off in the middle of the air. The tattoos on their bodies sparkled radiantly. The two members of the Ghost Mark clan had consumed the pure strength of their bodies, which had been cultivated for 10,000 years. They showed their fangs like a pair of evil spirits. Shi Yin knitted his brows and grinned fiendishly. Overreaching yourself? His thought moved agilely. Negative energy boiled in his body, blending with his essence qi and gushing torrentially in his body. A thought of despair, brutality, cruelty, bloodlust, and craze erupted from Shi Yan's body. Second sky of rampage. Shi Yan's pupils started to redden like the color of blood. His eyes were now full of ruthless intent, while his body started to wither. Immense mist twirled around his body, creating a thick, white armor. His negative energy was as thick as a torrential river, surging furiously. Death and life seal. Both of his arms swung. Strange light formed the seal, rumblingly striking out. The death intent domain was silent but puzzled. Death and life alternated the true meanings of the world, which seemed to happen in the intent domain. Thoughts of death spread out as cold as ice. It seemed to have something harmonizing with the tranquil, shady firmament old mound. Flapping wind howled. It seemed that the seed of death had been planted in the silent atmosphere of the shady firmament old mound. A completely quiet thought filled the whole area. The Ghost Mark clan's clansmen changed their complexions. Death power. Lu Hao screamed instinctively as he hurried to gather himself together. An ice-blue light flashed in his eyes. The ghost tattoo in front of his chest suddenly revived, creating an ice-blue flower shortly. Patterns of his tattoo outlined the flower peculiarly. An ice-blue flower grew in Lu Hao's chest as a strange light sparkled indefinitely in his eyes. Pure energy from Lu Hao's body poured into the flower in his chest. When it bloomed beautifully, it flew out of Lu Hao's chest, flying towards the intent domain created by the death and life seal. A strange intent domain expanded from the ice-blue flower. Under that intent domain, the endless sky and sea Shi Yin had created were interrupted. The icy blue flower bloomed beautifully. Marvelous energy waves rose and rippled from the flower that affected the death domain. Shortly, the flower withered. Its petal fluttered like little spirits dancing, which looked magnificent. In this shady firmament old mound, where yin qi permeated everywhere, this was a stunning scene. During their dance, each petal transformed into seeds, falling on the humid ground. It was bizarre. Saplings started to sprout from the ground, as if they were strongly against the death intent domain. They were proliferating at the speed that naked eyes could observe. When the sprouts grew fully, the death intent domain that Shi Yin had strengthened disappeared like the bright moonlight in the mirror. Shi Yan's sight was hazy. A cold willpower suddenly shot into his sea of consciousness, which woke him up instantly. Shi Yin was struck. He focused and found that there was nothing in front of him. Lu Hao stood away from him, and the ice-blue flower condensed from the ghost tattoo was still on his chest. It hadn't flown out yet. Harumph. You're not good enough to play intent domain with us. Lu Hao's face was cold and disdainful. Shi Yin was surprised, but he wasn't enraged. He nodded and smiled. Yeah, right? You guys are the undying old men. Using the intent domain to attack you, well, it seems I was too naive. Then, he didn't talk more, but ordered the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter next to him. War Devil, Ghost Hunter, and Devouring Gold Silkworm flew out and started their bombarding on the clansmen, using force to subdue the others. Each member of the Ghost Mark clan had a profound understanding of Soul Upanishads and a special knowledge of the natural power intent domains. When encountering them, it wasn't practical if he wanted to win using various changes. Only attacking with pure strength was the statecraft. The War Devil, the Ghost Hunter, the Devouring Gold Silkworm, and the King of Demonic Insects weren't afraid of the Ghost Mark clan soul attacks, especially the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter. These two seemed to be immune to soul attacks. They were swaggering among that group of clansmen, not even minding their soul techniques. The War Devil was like a war chariot, storming over the Ghost Mark clan's group. Its pressure was heavy as a mountain, slamming down on them. The Ghost Hunter transformed to its humanoid shape, which had a scale armor on the face, and thorns on the shoulders, elbows, and knees. It was moving like a gust, with its limbs acting as incomparably strong and sharp weapons. The Devouring Gold Silkworm shot out its golden threads like a spider weaving its web. Its threads nibbled these 7 people's space. Although Lu Hao and his team had high realms, their energy was insufficient. Under the fierce attack of the War Devil, Ghost Hunter, Devouring Gold Silkworm, and the King of Demonic Insects, they fell into peril and could only try to dodge the sharp tip. Shi Yan's face was cold. He retrieved the divine sword and clasped his hands, watching the scene. He hadn't taken action yet. His soul consciousness had fluctuated many times. Flows of soul consciousness with space power toured around the shady firmament Old Mound, shooting towards the 2 sages of the Ghost Mark clan. In that tomb, a fierce battle was taking place like a raging fire. Lei Mo, Zhuo Hui, Ai Pur, and Gongsun Tao were fighting the Ghost Mark clan. Yi Xiong, Zhu Yi, and Yuing also took part, using the secret treasures to battle with the clansmen of the Ghost Mark clan. The 2 sages were sitting neatly among the members of their tribe. They stooped down, their mouths wearing an icy smile. Clear flows of soul fluctuations were shot out from the 2 sages, as they were striking their soul techniques toward Lei Mo's group. Members of the 7 factions like Lei Mo, Ai Pur, and Gongsun Tao couldn't help but take out all soul defense treasures. The gorgeous light from those treasures was neutralizing soul attacks of the 2 sages, while they were trying their best to break through to the center of the clansmen's barricade where the 2 sages were sitting. These 2 sages were restoring their power, taking in the heaven and earth spiritual chi. After they had escaped from the confinement, their dried power had just recovered inadequately. They couldn't have regained their competence that fast. They were seizing the time. When they gathered enough power to perform their martial techniques, Lei Mo and the others would never be able to escape their thunder. Lei Mo's team knew this well, so they attacked more furiously to capture the sages. Shi Yan's soul consciousness continued to search the corners of the shady firmament Old Mound. A figure appeared in his sea of consciousness. Lei Mo's son, Lei Ji. He didn't stay at the same spot with Aya. He was hiding behind a gravestone, watching the battle between Lei Mo and the Ghost Mark clan. His eyes sparkled with a sinister, ruthless light. Some dead bodies lay behind Lei Ji. They were the warriors of the Martial Spirit Palace and the Heaven Temple. One of them was Imo Ling Er. Her face paled, and her expression was panic-stricken, as if she had encountered something really terrible before she died. Standing next to the corpses, Lei Ji squinted. He lifted his head, looking at the void. A flash crossed his eyes. Shi Yan's flow of soul consciousness got hit. His sea of consciousness was shaken. He screamed in fear, his face frightened. Even the sages of the Ghost Mark clan couldn't notice his soul consciousness, but Lei Ji had smashed it easily. This surprised Shi Yan a lot. He's the world-extinguishing thunder flame. The 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame sent him a thought. Be careful. He's borrowing that body to restore his power. Or Chapter 582. Shake the God. Chapter 582. Shake the God. Lei Ji was possessed. The world-extinguishing thunder flame with the brutal fame in the ancient time was born from lightning and thunder of the nine skies. It had the most powerful thunder power that could even destroy the world. If it weren't exhausted through so many years, then when it finally got out of the confinement, it could create a great calamity in the divine great land, putting this land through utter miseries. Amongst the nine heaven flames, it was the most extreme, and also the one who liked slaughtering the most. It was so hostile to other races. If it could restore its power, many people in this world wouldn't sleep in peace. When the lightning destroyed his flow of soul consciousness, Shi Yan's sea of consciousness shook, but he restored it immediately. As his flow of soul consciousness was searching every corner of the shady firmament old mound, images appeared lively in his sea of consciousness. His sea of consciousness was like a bright mirror that reflected all regions of the shady firmament old mound, and he didn't miss a scene. He saw Yun Xiu controlling the flying carriage, taking the juniors away from where the Ghost Mark clan gathered as fast as lightning. He also saw Aiya. Aiya paled, standing in between the phosphorus ghost mushrooms. Fear appeared in her eyes as if she had encountered a big shock. Her mind hadn't steadied yet. His soul consciousness with space power glided swiftly in the shady firmament old mound, constantly transmitting images to him. Shi Yan watched the situations inside the shady firmament old mound. With this direct viewing method, he understood the details of each fight like the back of his hand. This feeling's terrific. A man who stands 10,000 miles away could see every single change from such distance. This ability could be compared to that of God. While he was carefully keeping track of all the changes in the shady firmament old mound in his sea of consciousness, he squinted, grinned, and evaluated the fight in front of him nonchalantly. Lo Hao and his team were struggling hard under the furious attack of the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter. They only had room to dodge. War Devil, with its heavy black armor that no saber or sword could give it a scratch, sometimes cracked a black hole in its palm, drawing in all aura that Lu Hao and his team emitted. Lu Hao's team attacked War Devil, but they couldn't leave a mark on it. They could only hear the clinging sounds of metal impacts. The Ghost Hunter had turned into its ferocious humanoid form, as agile as electricity. Its dark aura and devil aura were fused to create the evilest power ever, constantly pushing Lu Hao's team to back off. The energy of the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter were enough to oppress Lu Hao's team. The King of Demonic Insects and the Devouring Gold Silkworm were just to improve the perfection. Retreat. Lu Hao shouted abruptly, his face sinister and vicious. He hurried to make the way out. The ghost tattoo on his chest changed again, turning into a thick gold cloud. Clusters of gold cloud scattered from his chest, hindering behind him. The other clansmen who saw Lu Hao's deed immediately followed him. The ghost scriptures on their bodies changed that naked eyes couldn't observe it. Some had their tattoo turned into armor. The others had an ice wall. One had layers of barriers enhancing each other, making for thick protection that was hard to destroy. The ghost tattoo was a kind of special martial spirit with the innate power. When Lu Hao's team united, their defense was unbreakable. War Devil, Ghost Hunter, and Devouring Gold Silkworm attacked together. They furiously barged onto the barrier, but they couldn't smash that layered barrier. They could only see Lu Hao's team retreating. Shi Yan's visage was cold. He grinned then shouted, "Break!" The sky-breaking shuttle shot out. Its silver bunch of rays was like breaking dried branches, piercing through the defense, creating a big, deep hole. War Devil and Ghost Hunter got in to attack the enemy. They pursued Lu Hao's group closely. Not good. Lu Hao paled in fright. Blood trickled from his mouth uncontrollably as he hoarsely cried. The other 6 members of the Ghost Mark clan had the light in their eyes scattered. They were panicked. Instinctively, they wanted to use the secret techniques to escape. The defense created by the innate tattoo was linked with their sea of consciousness. Once it was damaged, their sea of consciousness would be shaken violently that hurt their souls. Lu Hao and his team could never guess that Shi Yan had a weapon that was against the natural order like the sky-breaking shuttle. Any barriers would be pierced through like a thin sheet of paper under its marvelous power. Lu Hao's team had their soul hurt. Blood trickled down from the corners of their mouths. The lights on their ghost tattoos were dim, like a flickering candle in the wind, which could be blown out at any minute. Shi Yin was calm, slowly walked through the heavy barrier on the ecliptic the sky-breaking shuttle had created. He took each step toward Lu Hao's team. He was about to finish them within one strike. Request reinforcement. As Lu Hao saw him coming, he shouted deafeningly, clenching his jaw. A group of Ghost Mark Clan's clansmen transmitted the same surging soul signal from the sea of consciousness. Flows of soul consciousness weaved like shuttles, shooting toward the sky and disappearing, leaving no trace. In the tomb where the Ghost Mark clan gathered, two sages of the Ghost Mark clan were closing their eyes to adjust their breathing. Abruptly, they jolted up. Murderous aura shot out from their eyes. The eyes of the sage who had talked to Shi Yin had an immense rolling divine light that looked like a meteor shooting to a far land, soaring to the sky. Spiritual chi gathered in that light with numerous colorful spots. It flashed then disappeared into the void as though it had crossed spaces. Shi Yin was about to attack the others. Suddenly, a flow of unease emotion came to him. A strand of his soul consciousness immediately sent an image. A flow of shooting light looked like a meteor with a long flaming tail was gathering earth and heaven aura. It was flying fiercely as if it wanted to pierce the earth and sky to tunnel a level passage. This light carried along clear soul fluctuations. These soul fluctuations locked him, running toward him. This is the foreign sky disseminating flame. To create it, you have to use the soul at the true God realm to be the mediator to gather the essence chi and aura of meteors in the foreign sky. The nine serenities soul-devouring flame sent him its thought right before the light shone on his sea of consciousness. Shi Yin was struck. His face was more serious than he had never been before. He immediately urged all powers in his body to create the gravitational field in just a short moment. The gravitational field was condensed from the different powers that covered him. He then released the dark light shield, the star shield, and urged the petrification martial spirit to the acme. He had mobilized all the powers in his body in silence. A flow of shooting light zoomed over from far in the sky. It looked like a riotous five-colored river pouring down from the sky. Glorious light spots gathered in that shooting light. Earth and heaven's spiritual chi around there seemed to find a drainage for itself, massively flowed into that shooting light, making it more earth-shaking. Although that true God realm sent just a little of his energy to guide it, the power that this foreign sky disseminating flame gathers is really intimidating. You should pray for yourself. The nine serenities soul-devouring flame sent him a message. Shi Yan's heart shivered. Since he had been in this world, he had met so many strong enemies, but never the attack of a true God realm expert. In divine great land, true God realm was the peak existence. Each of them was the earth-shattering character. Most of the warriors had to bow to them. The meaning of this level expert was inexplicably invincible. Although the two sages of the Ghost Mark clan hadn't restored more than 20% of their real competence, they were still true God realm experts. Reaching the true God realm meant they had the God soul with the undying soul ability. Unless they were attacked by a special divine weapon, their soul would never perish. Being the target of this level expert, even though Shi Yin had big guts, he couldn't help but be uneasy. He had urged all the defensive barriers he had. Staying inside the gravitational field, he was waiting in silence, his breathing heavy. The shooting light sometimes was like a white ribbon, and sometimes looked like a sharp sword, suddenly disappeared. After 15 minutes, the gravitational field covering him was shaking violently. This magnetic field created by many different kinds of power was about to be pierced through by some sharp weapon. His energies were torn apart. Shortly, the gravitational field was broken by an invincible force. The shooting light appeared again. Suddenly, Shi Yin became discolored and shouted as his whole body was enlarging. His eyes reddened as if they were sprayed with blood. His face was brutal and ruthless. Shooting light plunged down fast. Sparks of light filled the sky. A violent force that could explode everything was moving, pressing down imposingly. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Starlight of the star shield was melted in the flame. The power of his star martial spirit was running out. The shooting light grumblingly pressed down. Star shield and the dark light shield exploded. The surging power erupted like the collapsing mountain from Shi Yan's body. He was standing like a rock, but now he got hit like a heavy mallet had pounded on him. Crispy sounds echoed from his knees. Shi Yan fell on the ground. A violent force torrentially moved in his body. Bones in his body cracked. Vessels and meridians were broken. His internal organs seemed to be displaced. He gushed out blood. At this moment, Shi Yan felt like he had a wild beast stormed his body, biting him and ripping him apart. This pain was like someone was drilling his heart, which was unbearable. He was always a man with the will of steel. However, under such pains, he couldn't bear it. His mind was hazy and his consciousness blurred. Suddenly, a cold ice that chilled to his bones rose from his sea of consciousness. The extreme cold power was like an ice-cold stream, raising in his body and his sea of consciousness. Shi Yan's soul consciousness was shaken. His mind, which was about to scatter, restored part of its calmness. Whistle, whistle, whistle. Negative energy from 720 acupuncture points shot out as if it was blown away by gusts. The bloodthirsty, wild, desperate, and intimidating aura of the negative energy was like the ferocious beast in the ancient time. It started to move in his body, making his body the battlefield. Crack, crack, crack. Bones in his body broke continually, and his vessels were cracked badly. Shi Yan was now a blood man, as he was covered in his own blood. He looked pitiful and scary like a bloody ghost. So extreme. Not far from that, Lu Hao's team was backing off constantly and still gazing at him. War Devil, Ghost Hunter, Devouring Gold Silkworm, and King of Demonic Insects had their intellect. When they recognized that their master had big problems, they didn't chase their target further but gathered around Shi Yan to guard him. Muahaha. A strange, crafty laughter arose from the light of a lightning strike that suddenly struck out. Lei Ji. Chapter 583, Fate Fusion. Chapter 583, Fate Fusion. Shi Yan looked like a bloody ghost. His body soaked in blood. His vessels cracked. His eyes were bloodshot. The crazy, violent energy from the foreign sky disseminating flame was wreaking havoc in his body. The violence of this energy was hard to imagine. It had devastated Shi Yan's body like a paste pulp. It's horrible to look at him. The cold air that chilled to his bones was absorbed into flesh and bones in his entire body. It then expanded in Shi Yan's sea of consciousness, which helped him restore his consciousness. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of ice congealing arose in his body. Thick layers of ice and mist appeared, enveloping him. The cold aura of the ice-cold flame burst out abruptly. From the blood vein ring as the core, the cold power permeated his organs and limbs. It came to each fraction of his vessels to freeze it. Currently, his severely damaged body was frozen. A cold stream flowed in his soul. A gloomy, cold light shone on Shi Yan's bloodshot pupils. War Devil, Ghost Hunter, Devouring Gold Silkworm, and the King of Demonic Insects were standing in guard. The blood vein ring flashed with red light. The Holy Spirit God and the Earth Flame disclosed themselves silently. They were watching over Shi Yan from different directions, keeping him in the middle of their protection circle. It was Lei Ji. He was smiling deceitfully, standing 100 meters away from Shi Yan. He wasn't hurried. Lightning was weaving in his eyes, shining dangerously that could haunt people. To be exact, he was the world-extinguishing thunder flame, the second rank among the 9 heaven flames with the brutal fame. This flame liked to slaughter. He hated every creature that had a body. He was born from lightning. His existence seemed to destroy this world. He looked at Shi Yan oddly, but he didn't move. Lightning strikes were constantly moving in his eyes. Rumble, rumble. 9 skies God thunder boomed. No one knows how and where it came from. The subterranean shady firmament old mound was shaking unceasingly. In the reverberating thunder, a bunch of thunder snakes slithered in the air with their long, scary tongues. They looked lively, hiding perceptibly in the gloomy horizon. Those snakes were carrying a wild, bloodthirsty energy that could be burst out at any minute. The group of strange creatures, including Ghost Hunter, devouring gold silkworm, couldn't hide their fear. Under such heaven power, they started to be agitated. That kind of thunder and lightning could destroy all creatures' souls. Strange creatures like Ghost Hunter and the devouring gold silkworm, when they got hit, all the traces of their existences in this world would be eradicated. Among the heaven flames, besides the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame, the world-extinguishing thunder flame was the second one who had the power that could destroy souls directly. Let alone the demonic beasts like the Ghost Hunter or the devouring gold silkworm, even the strange living beings like the earth flame or the Holy Spirit God couldn't bear it. In legend, when the world-extinguishing thunder flame's energy was strongest, it could even burn the god soul of King God. In the reverberating thunder, the world-extinguishing thunder flame suddenly stooped and shouted, "Get out!" Shi Yan's bloody body was frozen. From a distance, he looked like a giant blood crystal, which was strange and scary in this gloomy tomb underground. Crack, crack, crack. The cracking sound echoed unceasingly from his body. It was the sound of breaking bones and cracking vessels. His consciousness was restored. He looked at the world-extinguishing thunder flame, which had occupied Lei Ji's body. Bloodthirsty intent filled his bloodshot eyes, as if he didn't care about how strong his opponent was or how fatigued his body was. He's coming for me. And me. The 9 serenities soul-devouring flame and the ice-cold flame sent him their soul fluctuations. 2 strange auras flowed along his frozen vessels and got out of his body. The 9 serenities soul-devouring flame was bright silver, and the ice-cold flame was crystal white. They were now the 2 small flames, standing on Shi Yan's right and left shoulders. An exhausted willpower stormed into the deep place in his soul. Then, the soul energy of his host's soul was forcefully drawn half, contributing to the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame. The 9 serenities soul-devouring flame jumped out. Under the dim-lit shady firmament old mound, it revealed a small, handsome appearance, which somehow similar to Shi Yan. Shi Yan was stunned, looking at the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame. He could feel clearly a mysterious thread that connected him and a bright silver flame. This thread was invisible and intangible. He could only use soul contact to sense it. Under the connection of that soul thread, his original soul power was drawn and poured into the bright silver flame bit by bit, which surged the vitality of that flame. The ice-cold flame couldn't have that treat. Shi Yan, and it hadn't fused into one, so it couldn't have the soul aid from Shi Yan. It was like a small snowflake, releasing the extremely cold though to create an invisible ice wall to shield the thunder and lightning from the other. Living beings like us have received the favor of earth and firmament to be born into this world. You are supposed to rule every creature. But you too are wallowing in degeneration, living on a low human. You too are the big shame of our heaven flames. I come here to unchain you, and I'll let you fuse with me. We will become one. We will see the origin. We will become the god of all creatures, big or small. We will build the regime that will rule tens of thousands of years. The world-extinguishing thunder flame spoke as if it was singing with a strange melody. It slowly talked with arrogant lines. The power of his and mine are damaged badly through time. But you, after a long time of constant consuming, you don't have even 1% left. You are no difference from us. You want us to consider you the origin, fuse with you, and deem you our master. Do you think you can do that? The small, handsome face that the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame condensed was cold, ruthless, and disdainful. The ice-cold flame was a thumb-sized, crystal-clear snowflake, which had a milky white flame inside. It was surging with vehement soul energy. We are all heaven flames. Why do you want to harm yourself and us? If you absorb us, of course, you can be stronger. But your current power can't do that. My advice to you, leave. After several times of thunder calamities, when you can regain your power, you can consider this one more time. Haha, I'll evolve to another level when I take you in. My recovery will be faster. Until I'm fully recovered, I'm not able to challenge it. You are the stone that I can use to challenge it. You should be honored. I'm trying for the last mark of fusion in our fates. When we fuse, it follows the sky order. This is your fate. You can't violate it, and you must not violate it. The world-extinguishing thunder flame spoke with neither slow nor fast tone. Its tune was like a Buddhist prayer, which was filled with ancient aura as if it was the great god of the antiquity who was praying for the fortune of all creatures, showing them on the path of God. If you are determined, you can try. Although I can't recover my power fully, you are the same with me. You can eradicate my soul. I can also burn your seal. You can try me, said the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame solemnly. Shi Yan's soul shivered. His soul power surged like a liquid being drawn out and poured into the flame soul. The aura of the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame was strengthened immediately. A silver flame burst out that could burn down all soul auras of creatures. This was so imposing. Shi Yan could recognize that this flame looked as if it was facing its archenemy. Facing the world-extinguishing thunder flame, the one that had a higher ranking with a better level of evolution, the flame that was always arrogant in his soul started to urge all its power to counter. If I fail, your soul will perish together with me. The flame sent Shi Yan its thought. Although I'm depressed, my soul and your soul are fused. From now on, we will enjoy triumphs together and bear the damage together. Thus, you have to send your soul power to me unceasingly. That guy's so strong. Only borrowing your power can give me a way to survive. Besides that, what else I can help you? Shi Yan was panicked. No creature can interfere the battle between heaven flames. Once we start, the power of nature will form a seal of origin to confine us. Inside that seal, no power could interfere. Since I fused with your soul, I can borrow your soul power. However, your realm is too low, and you haven't formed the god soul yet. I don't know how far you could help me. Sigh, if I weren't hurt badly in that formation, I wouldn't have needed your soul to restore myself. Such a wrong decision. Shi Yan smiled miserably. Until now, he finally knew that in that fusion between him and the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame in that abandoned area was the flame's initiative. Through its explanation, Shi Yan understood that the barrier in that abandoned place had hurt its soul badly. This flame had the power to kill souls, but it couldn't use the soul to recover itself. Although there's a way to restore its soul, it didn't have a choice at that time. Seemed it couldn't use the other method around to recover. It could only fuse its soul with some creature, using that creature's soul to restore itself gradually. It could see Shi Yan's potential. That's why it had chosen him. Originally, Shi Yan couldn't understand why he had fused with the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame inexplicably like that. But now he got it from the flame itself. You need only the soul power? Anything else that could help you? Shi Yan cleared his mind, then inquired the flame immediately. According to the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame, if its soul perished, his soul would die altogether. Under such circumstance, Shi Yan didn't have a choice. He had to support it with all of his abilities to save its life and his own life. You're too weak, sighed the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame, as if it had a huge regret. Shi Yan gritted his teeth, his face indignant. Lucky that we have the ice-cold flame. And, after the earth flame evolves, it can join us too. The Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame continued. If it's possible, let us attack all together. We can increase the chance to win. Ah, right, they have to be in this too. Otherwise, when I fail, they can't escape the consequence of being absorbed. Shi Yan was scared. It's true. If this fails, we can't survive, said the ice-cold flame begrudgingly. The earth flame sparkled dazzlingly. From its thought, this flame had the same idea with the ice-cold flame. It could also see the wrong things. They understood well that they had no exit this time, and that they could only fight with all their lives to have the next evolution to a more complete form. Otherwise, when the world-extinguishing thunder flame absorbed them, the countless-year journey of their lives would be erased directly. They must join this fight. Chapter 584, Immortal Body. Chapter 584, Immortal Body. Cyan lightning balls flew out from Leiji's body. Each of them had the brutal lightning power as the core. World-extinguishing thunder flame's real soul gradually flew out from Lei Ji's eyes. The cyan flame was covered in blue-green rays. Each blue ray had an electric current, which seemed malicious and scorching. Lightning balls rolled, tearing the air to attack Yin. The original flame, the world-extinguishing thunder flame, had generated hid in those lightning balls to manipulate them. Heaven and earth's spiritual chi around seemed to be guided by some kind of power, gathering here from every direction. A deep meaning of natural power seemed to be urged, slowly forming and changing. Spiritual chi and yin chi in the shady firmament old mound were all washed away, dragged to this place to create layers of a thick vacuum energy wall. The handsome face of the Nine Serenity soul-devouring flame next to Yin became tense. He looked forward, as a surging soul fluctuation was shot out from his body, creating this change in heaven and earth. The radiantly glorious ice-cold flame and earth flame had brought out their power at the same time. Their scorching flames started to lean against the Nine Serenity soul-devouring flame. A torrential surging fluctuation appeared from deep underground. Under the urge of numerous beams of heaven and earth aura, lightning balls created by the world-extinguishing thunder flame exploded. Thunder and lightning interweaved as space distorted. A multicolored light came out of nowhere, pouring into that chaos of thunder and lightning. In that space, the original flame of the world-extinguishing thunder flame suddenly had a vehement living fluctuation. It was shining blazingly like a cyan sun. The Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame seemed to be bound by the heaven and earth forces. They turned into three flows of flame, swarming into the area where thunder and lightning were interweaving. When the three heaven flames disappeared, the strange area that the world-extinguishing thunder flame had created suddenly exploded, just like the rupturing of a planet. Countless flows of sharp and violent energy interlinked and inciting each other, making that area a show of the most dazzling fireworks, where rays of beautiful light filled the air. Shortly, the auras of the four heaven flames disappeared. Yin stood with his bloody body amidst the war devil, the ghost hunter, and the king of demonic insects. His face was extremely grave. He could vaguely feel that the four heaven flames were somewhere near him. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried to search, his soul consciousness couldn't locate the four heaven flames, let alone his naked eyes. Crack, crack, crack. His bones cracked again. The pain like someone was drilling his heart spread over his body, which woke him up. The wounds in his body hadn't been recovered yet. Today, he had fallen into a really awful situation. Taking a deep breath, he temporarily left the thought of putting forth everything to connect with the Nine Serenity soul-devouring flame. He quietly used the immortal rebirth secret to move the energy of his blood and refine drops of immortal blood at the same time. 3 drops of immortal blood bloomed like 3 flowers in his body. Flows of strange energy absorbed into his vessels shortly. His immortal blood took effect instantly. Blood flowed in his body, turning into a warm stream that reached his bones. Performing the immortal rebirth secret, Yin had used his immortal blood and immortal martial spirit to cure the body that was covered with wounds. He was healed at speed that naked eyes could see. Under the miraculous effect of the immortal blood, his cut vessels and meridians were connected, his broken bones were reborn. He was revived. The energy of the blood had refined his bones into a color of ink-black glass. Now, they were translucent like black jade, and the hardness had been promoted on a large scale. Under the excruciating pain, he was like a reincarnated phoenix carrying out the extremely strange transformation. In the final phase of the immortal secret rebirth, he felt as if he were forged by a giant hammer. Under the acme of pain, his body was like refined iron under pounding, where sparks shot out everywhere. Yin stooped and roared. He was bleeding badly. However, the blood gushed out was sucked back again into the wounds. In his body, numerous strange energies were moving like blood rivers, as they were starting to refine his body one more time. Not long after that, the cuts on his body closed. Besides some bloodstains on his skin, from a distance, he looked like he had never been hurt. Even his face was glowing with health. The Immortal Rebirth technique was the #1 secret technique of the Yang family's Immortal canon. Only members of the Yangs, who had the immortal martial spirit, could practice this secret. In their family's history, each member who could succeed in using the Immortal Rebirth secret was an expert with a strong will and the immortal blood. The Yangs, unless their souls were eradicated, always had a chance to revive. If he could practice Immortal Rebirth secret to an exquisite level, he could make his immortal martial spirit evolve to a great height. According to the writings in Immortal canon, the Yang family's experts could have their soul immortal and their body undying in a mysterious realm. When warriors of the Yang family reached their top realm, as long as they had 1 drop of immortal blood in their bodies, they could use the immortal martial spirit and Immortal Rebirth secret to create a new body from that drop of immortal blood. Even if their flesh and souls were smashed, they could always use the blood to restore everything. This was the invincible state they could achieve when combining 3 things: the Immortal Rebirth secret, the immortal martial spirit, and the immortal blood. Of course, it was a long distance until Shi Yin could reach such level. However, his wounds weren't as bad as a being pulp of flesh. Thus, under the combination of the 3 said conditions, his wounds were healed rapidly. Everything the Immortal Rebirth secret circled, a new round of refining his body. When he was completely recovered, he would be more robust and more tenacious than before. The reason why Yang Tian Emperor wasn't afraid under Bo Sun and Qi Yan's torture was that he had been refined so many times. Each time of refining was another transformation. After each transformation, bones, blood, vessels, and flesh would have strengthened furthermore. After several transformations, a warrior with regular foundation could have a tremendous physique. This was the first time Shi Yin had the immortal transformation. Inside the circle of the 5 strange living beings, War Devil, Ghost Hunter, Devouring Gold Silkworm, King of Demonic Insect, and Holy Spirit God, Shi Yin balled his body, grunting in his throat like a confined animal trying its best to struggle out of the cage. Yun Xiu changed her visage on the flying carriage. She concentrated her mind and sensed. Then, she shouted suddenly, "It's Shi Yin!" Li Muyu, Lin Ji, Luo Xiao, Luo Meng, and Bai Hui Quan were astounded. Then they tried to sense quietly. Yun Xiu didn't give them time to sense. She contemplated, then changed the direction of the flying carriage towards the place where Shi Yan's voice was arising from. This secret treasure using essence qi was miraculous. Under the effect of the top-grade essence qi, it was extremely fast. Not long after that, Yun Xiu arrived where Shi Yin was screaming. She looked at him with fright. Bai Hui Quan couldn't help but cover her mouth while screaming, her face disbelieving as if she was watching a marvel. Luo Xiao, Lin Ji, and Li Muyu also dropped their jaws and stood motionlessly. They didn't know what to say, just watching from a distance. It was a complete silence. In front of them, Shi Yin was screaming while his bones were cracking as if some invisible weapons were pounding on him. His body distorted. It seemed his bones were all misplaced. His face was brutal, while a wild light shot out from his eyes. Flows of dark red light were moving under his skin, in his flesh like worms crawling in every corner of his body. They could see bloodstains all over his body, which made him look like a bloody man. Shi Yin was twisting his body amidst his terrible screams. His bones cracked constantly, and his vessels were elongated and deformed. It was like a demon was hiding in his body, torturing him as much as it pleased to erode his body. However, in such a bizarre situation, his aura was ruthless, and the heavy energy fluctuations were rising immensely from him unceasingly. Bai Hui Quan covered her mouth, her eyes twinkling. Astonishment filled her face. Changing Bone's transformation? Yun Xiu was disbelieving. Fright reflected in her beautiful eyes. Normally, low-realm warriors can easily use the secret technique to transform. In the Nirvana realm, really rare warriors could change their bones and undergo the transformation. Transformation means reforging the body. Extreme changes can happen at any time. How about him? Lin Ji screamed. He's undergoing a transformation using some secret technique, probably. In theory, Warriors at his realm will never dare to change their bones or transform. During that process, some unpredictable factors can happen. If he's careless, his soul will perish. Yunxiu hesitated for a while and then said, before he started the transformation, he seems to have gotten hurt badly. In this situation, his success rate will be certainly low. So, what to do? Luo Xiao paled, asking worriedly. Sure, Yin boss always treats us well. Elder Yun, do you know how to help him? Yun Xiu was a bit embarrassed, shaking her head begrudgingly. I don't know the method he's using. My realm isn't high enough to help him reorder. At this moment, we don't have any method to help him. We could only watch. What happens to Shi Yinji? Luo Ming pondered then said, it should be the Ghost Mark clan who did it. Otherwise, with boss competence, he wouldn't be passive. They? Yun Xiu shook her head, looking at the 5 strange living beings around him, then continued with a forced smile. Those chasers couldn't hurt him. As she had the second sky of Spirit Realm cultivation base, she could vaguely feel the ori of the War Devil and the Ghost Hunter. She knew that under their protection, Ghost Mark clan's chasers couldn't hurt Shi Yin. Is it? Yun Xiu thought then discolored. She couldn't help but look at the void above her head with panic. She was anxious. Chapter 585. Molting. Chapter 585. Molting. From the aura the War Devil, the Ghost Hunter, the King of Demonic Insects, the Devouring Gold Silkworm, and the Holy Spirit God were exuding. Only the 2 sages of the Ghost Mark clan could hurt Shi Yin. Those clansmen, who hadn't restored their power yet, weren't a match for the War Devil or Ghost Hunter. They didn't even have enough power to engage a battle, so how could they hurt him? The 2 sages weren't here. Experts at the True God realm had many supernatural secret techniques. Beheading someone from thousands of miles away was easy to them. If they had attacked Shi Yin, it was possible that they could wound Shi Yin to that level. Besides the 2 sages, Yun Xiu couldn't think of anybody else who could trouble Shi Yin that much. She was correct. Rechecking the void above their head, Yun Xiu suddenly felt very insecure. Light sparkled in her eyes as she said, we should leave first. Elder Yun. Luo Xiao and Luo Ming screamed hurriedly. Teacher. Bai Hui Quan couldn't understand, looking inexplicably at Yun Xiu. We don't have time to explain much. Anyway, we have to leave quickly. Yun Xiu took a cold breath. She felt tense, as if there were a pair of eyes watching her coldly. She could even recognize the spiritual qi around this place was disordered and chaotic, which hinted of a dangerous risk. But she didn't know that her feeling came from the 4 heaven flames, and not the 2 sages of the Ghost Mark clan. At this moment, the 2 sages of the Ghost Mark clan were besieged. They had to struggle against Lei Mo's team, so they didn't have extra time to pay attention to this area. Yun Xiu didn't know that. She felt that the strange atmosphere around her was caused by the 2 sages. She didn't let Luo Xiao and Bai Hui Quan have more chances to inquire. Yun Xiu used a dark green fabric sheet to cover these juniors inside the carriage and drove the flying carriage away. Although Luo Xiao and the others didn't want that, they had no way under the binding of Yun Xiu's secret treasure. They could only see Shi Yin zooming out until he completely disappeared from their sight. Yun Xiu's team came here and lingered for around the time of 10 breaths, then left hurriedly. After Yun Xiu had driven the flying carriage away, another flash sparkled near Shi Yin. A long-limbed figure appeared quietly. Aya. Under the dim-lit light, she looked like a lonely spirit moving towards Shi Yin. Aya halted in midway. Cold light like sharp sabers shot out from her beautiful eyes, hitting Lei Ji. Lei Ji was standing 100 zhang away from Shi Yin in the middle of some graves. He stood solemnly, but there was no breathing. He was like a withered tree without vitality. However, the torrential, violent thunder and lightning power were moving clearly in his body. There was no soul but the evil, brutal energy in his body. Lei Ji's change was inexplicably bizarre. Aya stood far from Lei Ji. Her beautiful eyes coldly stare at him as if she were contemplating. Anyway, she didn't pay much attention to Shi Yin. She just gave him a look and then turned away. This looked like Shi Yin's change wasn't a surprise to her. Aya watched Lei Ji in silence. Her gorgeous eyes showed a complex set of emotions. Hatred, resentment, doubt. They were changing as she was making her mind up on a difficult decision. Long afterward, Aya had her decision. From 100 zhang away, she formed a hand seal. Silver light flashed in her palms. The evil sharp light shot out. It was a dagger-like silver hairpin, which was full of dangerous surging energy. The silver hairpin drew a graceful curve in the air, disappearing into Lei Ji's chest. Puff! The silver hairpin pierced through Lei Ji's chest, making another curve in the air, then disappearing. Aya snatched it. The silver hairpin flashed, then reappeared in her palm. She arched her brows, watching Lei Ji as if she were waiting for something in silence. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The strange noise echoed in Lei Ji's body as if some force was decomposing his body. Aya relaxed, exhaling in relief. Boom! However, a rumbling thunder echoed from Lei Ji's body. More than 10 sharp needles of the silver hairpin were erased in that thunder. As the master of the secret treasure, Aya was hurt severely. Her soul consciousness trembled, and her pretty face grimaced in fear. Roar! At the same time, Shi Yin roared hoarsely. His face was as sinister as a demon. Aya's soul consciousness got hurt, and she was more frightened on hearing Shi Yin's roar. At this moment, she finally realized that someone else was here, too. Aya turned around to check. A thick, bloody scent diffused from Shi Yin. His blood pupils were ruthless and bloodthirsty. Aya was startled. Her face became grim as she was moving energy in her body, ready to counter at any minute. Eventually, she recognized Shi Yin's dangerous situation. Aya smiled, her face cold. The silver hairpin in her hand circled, then retreated. She assumed that Shi Yin was about to undoubtedly die. Ghost Hunter, War Devil, and the other strange living beings were still protecting him in silence. They didn't attack her initially, but they were evaluating Aya. Once Aya made a move with an evil intention, they would bombard her. Aya had soon known that those strange creatures were dangerous. However, it seemed she had another shield, so she wasn't afraid of them. Of course, she wouldn't provoke them proactively. She retreated, trying to prevent causing any conflict with those peculiar creatures. Aya took several steps back. She gathered her energy the second time, using a special technique to attack Lei Ji's body one more time. They didn't know how deep her resentment for Lei Ji was. Phew, phew, phew. Shi Yin panted and screamed in pain. He was at the last step of molting his body using the Immortal rebirth technique. Energy rolled vehemently in his blood, getting absorbed into his bones and marrow, making them crystalline, ink-black, and more tenacious. Each muscle of his was convulsing, as its fibers were sucking power from his blood. Strange changes happened altogether with the pain. Even his sea of consciousness was boiled, constantly surging with violent waves. While his sea of consciousness was raging, his host soul was calm. It used the change of the sea of consciousness to refill the consumed soul power through the soul consciousness. In this strange situation, Shi Yin's soul consciousness had a transformation along with his body. Boom! His sea of consciousness was turbulent. The third eye of his host soul was dazzling like a star or a diamond. In this fraction of the time, he formed the connection with the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame. He could sense the invisible, intangible soul fiber again. At this moment, during his painful transformation, his mind restored. He glared at Aya while an evil light sparkled in his blood pupils. He said calmly, "What are you doing?" Aya was using her secret martial techniques to attack Lei Ji from a distance. She looked like she wanted to smash Lei Ji to a pulp of flesh. Aya heard his voice and was startled. She looked at Shi Yin deeply, then pretended to be calm. "What does it matter to you? Did Lei Ji try to kill you?" Shi Yin threw her a glare, sneering. Aya was scared, shouting, "How did you know that?" Shi Yin put on a mocking look and snorted, but didn't explain. After the world-extinguishing thunder flame had possessed Lei Ji, it controlled Lei Ji to kill the low-realm warriors like Emoling Air. Perhaps it wanted to restore its power using slaughtering. Aya was with Lei Ji all the time, so she should have been the first target of the world-extinguishing thunder flame. However, this woman survived the world-extinguishing thunder flames attack, which was beyond Shi Yan's assumption. You're excellent. Seems you had a big harvest in the toxic lands. Otherwise, you couldn't survive Lei Ji's attack. Congratulations. Your sinister heart has kept you safe until now, Shi Yan sneered. Aya discolored. How did you know that Lei Ji attacked me? Why? We were friends from childhood. Why did he suddenly become so ruthless to me? The more she talked, the worse control she had. She looked like she had a mental illness, with her inexplicably evil smile. She was Ai Po's daughter, and Lei Ji was Lei Mo's son. The White Emperor City wasn't too far from the Thunder Emperor City. Ai Po and Lei Mo were close friends, and she and Lei Ji had grown up together. There was a hazy affection between them. Lei Ji had attacked her all of a sudden. If she hadn't had some secret treasures, she would have been killed instantly. Until now, she had no idea of what had happened. She didn't understand why Lei Ji, who always nurtured her and followed her, became that fiercely heartless. She didn't know what had happened. Shi Yan knew something, but he hated her dark heart, so he didn't explain anything and just sneered. Tell me, why is that? Why did he treat me that way? Aya shouted. You deserve that. Shi Yan didn't answer her. Aya paled. Shi Yan didn't pay attention to her anymore, pointed to her, and ordered the ghost hunter. Kill her. The ghost hunter roared. Shi Yan sat neatly, slowly adjusting his breathing. He concentrated his mind and spirit, following that soul fiber to search for the place where the four heaven flames were fighting. Aya's eyes were cold, watching the ghost hunter. She gritted her teeth and avoided the beast. From her left white hand, an armor made from shattered jade enveloped her soft body. Pieces of jade on the armor sparkled, releasing marvelous ori of different types of powers. They seemed to have a connection with her sea of consciousness. The power in Aya's body bloomed, rippling without any rule. All of a sudden, Aya's aura was hidden, leaving no surging fluctuation, as if she had never come here. The ghost hunter was bewildered. It stopped and sensed, while a bizarre light shot out from its pupils. The beast took the demonic bell out. Jingle, jingle. Strange jingling sounds came from the demonic bell as the ghost hunter strolled around the tomb to search for its opponent. At the same time, following the soul fiber, Shi Yan changed his visage, entering a marvelous space. Chapter 586, Overdrawing. Chapter 586, Overdrawing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The demonic bell continually jingled, as a devilish light like waves rippled in all directions. The scaled face of the ghost hunter looked malicious. He was shaking the bell constantly, gathering the evil power in it. Devil chi released from the demonic bell while demonic scriptures undulated, making a connection with the ghost hunter's soul, looking for any soul fluctuations. Suddenly, the light from the demonic bell twisted behind a gravestone. The ghost hunter howled gloomily as the demonic bell sent it a strong energy impact. A wave of condensed energy shot towards that distorted area. Boom! The gravestone exploded, powdering the area. In the ash-gray dust, a figure ran away in panic. Thick blood mist exuded, as a bloody scent diffused everywhere. Light on Aya's precious armor dimmed as she spurted out blood. Exhausted, she was fleeing at the fastest speed. Her slender legs wore a pair of blue leather boots, which had a delicate formation. When she was running like flying, that formation was fiercely taking in the essence chi of her body to accelerate her speed. She was gliding swiftly like an electric current. The ghost hunter's bloodthirsty eyes gazed at her, then it shook the demonic bell again. Devil chi surged torrentially. When the demonic bell shook, the whole area shook together with it. A thick cluster of cloud swiftly drifted towards Aya's general direction. Aya was distressed. Turning around to peek, she was more frightened, running away at any cost. She had only the third sky of Sky Realm cultivation base. Facing the savage beast like the ghost hunter, she had no means to resist with force. If she hadn't had many treasures, she would have perished already. Aya's heart was filled with resentment, but she wasn't blind. She understood that even if she had the guts to stay here, she would never come back. She ran away with all of her efforts. With the secret treasures from her storage ring, Aya was as if she had received the support from God. Her figure flashed like a series of shadows that they couldn't see clearly. Even the ghost cloud that the ghost hunter released couldn't chase after her. As it couldn't lock her aura, it could only see her disappearing into the horizon. The ghost hunter held the bell, hovering in the air for a while. Then it came back unwillingly, standing next to Shi Yin. The group of strange creatures, including the war devil, ghost hunter, devouring gold silkworm, king of demonic insects, and the Holy Spirit God continued guarding Shi Yin. They were alert, in case something strange happened. Among them, the war devil was a dead thing. It didn't move, nor did it have any surging soul fluctuations. The ghost hunter, the devouring gold silkworm, the king of demonic insects were releasing the thoughts of their souls as if they were having a conversation. The Holy Spirit God's living form wasn't similar to theirs, so it couldn't participate in their discussion. However, the Holy Spirit God was a peculiar alien in this world. It had watched them for a while, then adjusted its soul frequency to form a connection with the ghost hunter, devouring gold silkworm, and king of demonic insects. The four peculiar living beings gathered. Their eyes had a very humanized emotion as they were discussing something in silence. Shi Yan's soul had been drifting for a while. All of a sudden, he found himself in a marvelous space. Also, he immediately felt the aura of the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame. This was an endless space, where a thick, milky white mist was hovering. The mist filled every corner of this place, making it look like a white ocean. 5 colored beams of light twinkled in this space, each containing some sorts of magical power. There were some beams with the furious flame inside. When they flashed, the flame burst out with various shapes and then ceased. Some beams appeared with crystal-clear streams of water inside. These streams were murmuring where the strange power was overflowing. Also, there were beams with the 5 element powers, constantly changing with different shapes inside those beams, releasing their unique aura. Countless beams shot, sparkled, then disappeared into thin air. Shi Yin couldn't know their trajectories, which made it hard to observe their shapes and forms from the beginning until the end. These beams carried with them different powers that existed in heaven and earth. There were 5 elements power, the power of desperation and fear, also the thick brutal power, or the hazy power of the soul. Each kind of power took turns to sparkle in this strange space. They were flying and shooting like shuttles, as if they were maintaining the existence and order of this space. Shi Yan's soul became a phantom, gradually appearing in this space. He could vaguely feel other different aura. Observing this space for a while, he couldn't see the deep meaning behind those things. He hesitated for a while, then tried to communicate with the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame again, wafting towards its general direction. This strange space didn't have gravity. It was like the scenery in his dream. He thought it would take time to find the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame. However, as his thought flickered, he appeared in their battle instantly. Lightning strikes were flying in the milky mist like giant dragons. They were all furious and hostile. Thunder and lightning filled the space, with the aura and power that were enough to destroy the whole world. The world-extinguishing thunder flame soul hid in the core of each giant lightning strike. There were so many lightning strikes gathered at the same time. Vaguely, they were forming the shape of a giant antiquity god, who was watching every creature disdainfully, as if he could hold every one of them in his hands. Flows of silver flame condensed a sea of silver fire, surging under those lightning strikes. Big waves surged from the silver fire sea. Each wave was one fierce silver flame that could burn down all souls. Silvery flames seethed torrentially. Sometimes, it rose up to the sky, hitting the robust electric dragon created by the world-extinguishing thunder flame. Dazzling sparks shot out from the impact. 2 rivers meandered around that silver fire sea. One was jade white, and the other was scarlet. The jade white river froze many crystal-clear ice cubes, piling up in the middle of the river while releasing an ice-cold energy that could chill one to the bone. It was a turbulent flame inside the Scarlet River. Its aura was filled with the heat of lava. Inside the flame, Yin could vaguely see the pure fire of the sun with its solar divine light. These two rivers were situated aside the silver fire sea. They were also changing. Sometimes, countless ice dragons, ice snakes, beasts, or giants flew out of the jade-white river. Each of them was condensed from snowflakes. All were giant, at least hundreds of zhong, and they carried the freezing power that could freeze everything. The Scarlet River had condensed red fire shower. However, these fire raindrops went against natural orders when it rained from the ground to sky. Vigorous lightning strikes were slaughtering in the sky, hitting the ice dragons, smashing the ice snakes, and pounding the giants into powder. They also evaporated the fire shower. Only the soul-destroying willpower in the silver fire sea could resist the lightning. It was using the ancient will and guts to compete with the hateful soul inside the lightning strikes. Flashes of light, thunder, and lightning strikes interweaved, filling the entire space. Living fluctuations of the silver fire sea and the two rivers were gradually worn out. Light and energies madly impacted in this space. These lives were using the most primitive means to carry out a brutal soul war. Swoosh! A lightning strike precisely struck Yan's phantom, making it crack like bubbles. His brain went numb, following which Yan woke up abruptly. His eyes shone like two pieces of diamond, but his face was oddly strange. He didn't know where that magical space was. Even the soul consciousness aided by space power couldn't detect it. But he could confirm one thing. The battle of the four heaven flames had come to a critical moment. Who could survive? Who could take the final triumph after this strange fight? If the world-extinguishing thunder flame won, the nine serenities soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame would be fused with him. He would evolve the second time, coming to gain the perfection of his living form and an unimaginable soul power. And Yin, with the connection he had with the nine serenities soul-devouring flame, his soul would scatter as his existence in this world was erased. If his life seal didn't exist anymore, even if he had an immortal body, it would mean death to him, which put an end to his revival process, and he would never have a new life again. The immortal rebirth secret could only revive his body, but not make his soul undying. In this world, when the life seal was erased, there were no means to gather or restore it. Of course, Yin didn't want to die. It was just that he didn't know how to help the nine serenities soul-devouring flame. The world-extinguishing thunder flame had destroyed his hollow soul when he had just gotten there. He couldn't have the exact situation of that battle. This was definitely not good. Yan's face was dismal. He paled, as he had never felt so helpless like this. It was too aggrieving to give the control over his life to others. He didn't like this feeling. What to do? What to do now? Thoughts glided in his brain as he was trying to search for a suitable solution. However, soul power in his host soul was drawn away rapidly. Yin discolored. The fast consumption of his soul power meant that the nine serenities soul-devouring flame was encountering a hazardous situation. The faster Yan's soul power was sucked away, the worse situation the nine serenities soul-devouring flame was in. Soul power was the foundation of the host soul, which was condensed using soul consciousness. Once soul power was drained, the host soul would perish. Soul power was the power of life, the original source of strength of a warrior. At this moment, the nine serenities soul-devouring flame was taking his life power to fight against the world-extinguishing thunder flame. At this speed, the nine serenities soul-devouring flame would drain his life power soon. No, he couldn't just wait like this. Yan's complexion was brutal. He clenched his jaws as a devilish light shot out from his eyes. A magical light flashed across his head as his eyes brightened. The blood vein ring. Chapter 587, Bitter Struggle. Chapter 587, Bitter Struggle. He got this treasure when he descended to this world. It was unpredictably good, bringing uncountable advantages. At the critical moment, the blood vein ring always surprised him, converting danger to safety. Today, since his life power was drained rapidly, he was extremely anxious, worrying about the battle of the four heaven flames. The world-extinguishing thunder flame was too powerful. From what his hollow soul had observed, the union of 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame couldn't oppress it. With this trend, not long afterward, the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame would empty out his life energy. This was the first time he had regretted fusing with the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame. The feeling of having a heaven flame grabbing the neck was really aggrievedly helpless. He wanted to overturn the bad situation, but he couldn't find a solution. At the critical time, he remembered the blood vein ring. The divine sword Sky Destroyer taken out of the chasm battlefield was a god-level treasure, but the blood vein ring could pocket it. As the sword stayed idle inside the blood vein ring, it meant this ring could subdue the god-level secret weapon. It was the same with the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flames and the ice-cold flames cases. The blood vein ring's power could oppress and guide them. Eventually, they had to surrender. From this point, the blood vein ring was much stronger than the Sky Destroyer and the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame. Shi Yin was struck. Pulling himself together, he gathered the energy of his consciousness into a bunch of life, then jumped into the blood vein ring. I need help. The ring on his fingers sparkled with blood light. That light was like water murmuring, covering the entire ring. Beams of strange energy overflowed from the exquisite but complex patterns on the ring. Divine aura of the ring gathered and increased fiercely. It became apparent from time to time. Thump, thump, thump. Rumbling sounds came from the ring, which sounded like the vigorous heartbeat and the rumbling of a drum. A vague thought shot out from the ring, entering the deep area of Shi Yan's host soul. Shi Yan's eyes brightened. He could feel that the thought from the ring had settled in the center of his host soul. It was like a bunch of light energy searching the memory seal of the host soul as it was receiving what Shi Yan had experienced recently. Ear-splitting waves of soul resonance reverberated in his host soul. Shi Yan was trembling hard as the energies in his body were rioting like beasts escaped from their chains, furiously getting out of the cage. Soul energy of the host soul was vibrating at the same frequency. It seemed to be sublimated. Flows of soul energies were like they had been gifted a new vitality, surging robustly like boiling water. In the marvelous space, thunder and lightning were swaggering in the sky. Lightning strikes as big as a rock column were flying everywhere, packing the entire place. Flames burst from the silver fire sea by the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame was struck into ashes. Its power scattered rapidly. The 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame was putting forth everything to counter. It condensed and shelled flows of soul-destroying will, bravely fighting the lightning. Although they were all heaven flames, the 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame was ranked lower than the world-extinguishing thunder flame, and its life was one grade lower than the other. Both of them had consumed much of their energies, but the world-extinguishing thunder flame could subdue it easily. Without the soul power from Shi Yin, it should have been defeated earlier, and it couldn't continue gathering power to fight the world-extinguishing thunder flame. Although the ice-cold flame and the earth flame were giving it assistance, these 2 heaven flames weren't strong enough. The union of the 3 of them couldn't gain the upper hand. The silver fire sea under the bombarding of waves of lightning strikes was about to drain. All of a sudden, a sharp soul power appeared from somewhere far away like a spear piercing through space. The small, handsome face inside the silver fire sea was thrilled. The sharp soul power tore the sky and descended into the silver fire sea. After a surging wave splashed, Shi Yan's hollow soul appeared in this space once again. This time the hollow soul was covered in layers of energy. In the silver fire sea, it was intact under the furious lightning strikes. How could you get here? The 9 serenities' soul-devouring flame sent him a happy thought. Shi Yan's hollow soul cracked a silent smile. You don't need to care about that. I will unite with you to drain the lightning power. From the horizon of the nothingness, countless lightning strikes interweaved, creating a phantom of a giant ancient god. He observed things under his feet disdainfully. Thunder and lightning reverberated from that giant god, shooting to the ground. Shi Yin faced up the sky. His hollow soul was condensing energy, then shooting clusters of gray light from his palms. Gray light clusters gathered and then condensed into the shapes of the 5 devils in his sea of consciousness. They slowly emerged from the silver fire sea. Desperate, fear, bloodthirsty, greed, and resentment were the 5 flows of negative emotion exuded from the ferocious appearance of the 5 devils. These 5 flows surrounded Shi Yan's hollow soul, created a pentagonal seal. 5 flows of negative emotions connected to Shi Yan's hollow soul. At that moment, the hollow soul had an incomparable surging soul fluctuation in this strange space. Shi Yan's hollow soul strongly drove the silver fire sea to surge furiously. The sea used to be subdued, but now it was turbulent again. Big waves rose to the sky, releasing the immense soul-destroying energy. The god thunder and lightning struck from the horizon of the nothingness had been added with pure will. But when they came near the sea fire, big waves swarmed over, rolling them away and destroying them all. Big waves didn't give the lightning a chance to escape. In the fire sea, Shi Yan's hollow soul was circled by the pentagonal seal formed by the 5 devils. He lifted his head to look at the giant phantom of the ancient god in the horizon of the nothingness. All of a sudden, divine light condensed by the 5 negative soul wills, including desperation, fear, bloodlust, greed, and resentment, shot out of the hollow soul's eyes. It then turned into a light shield to receive the big lightning strikes, then directed them backward to the center of the world, extinguishing Thunder Flame's original will. It was like the sky was falling. Glorious rays of light bloomed out from the horizon. Fierce energy movements rose the big waves. Sky collapsed, and the nothingness shattered. Countless beams of different kinds of energies had their trajectories changed, fluttering disorderly. The giant ancient god phantom was condensed by the original will of the world, extinguishing Thunder Flame. It was shattered from the impact with the divine light of the negative will. The phantom was broken like shattered crystal, shooting over the sky like a meteor shower, as beautiful as the most glorious firework performance. Flows of god thunder and lightning struck from the sky, but the soul will added in it was destroyed, which misdirected the attack. They didn't aim at the 3 heaven flames. When the fire sea and the 2 rivers recognized the dramatic change in the horizon, they seized the opportunity to condense the power and soared up to the sky. Icicles, ice monsters, the fiery scarlet flame, and the soul-destroying silver light pierced through the massive lightning strikes. They were like 3 sharp swords thrusting into the original will of the world, extinguishing Thunder Flame. So many forces were taking care of the ancient god phantom, pushing it to the corner. It couldn't resist any longer. The phantom was as though it was torn apart by invisible hands, turning into misshaped figures. The god thunder and lightning in it were all scattered. They couldn't bind to each other like a rope again. Shi Yan's hollow soul was cold and ruthless. There was no beam of affection in his eyes while he was gazing at the horizon, pushing his force further. The negative soul will that came from the 5 devil was manipulated by his host soul, guiding the other forces to destroy the world, extinguishing Thunder Flame's original will in the sky. The fire sea and the 2 rivers were situated in much lower terrain. Seizing the chance, they urged all of their powers rocketing to the sky. At the same time, they were gradually floating towards the world, extinguishing Thunder Flame's original will. Despicable human, you dare break my good business? I'll make you consigned to eternal damnation. The brutal and crazy thought of the world, extinguishing Thunder Flame, expanded in the void. Just like the ancient god snarling indignantly, it shot directly towards Shi Yan's soul. This soul will moved swiftly in the sky. It condensed hundreds of lightning strikes, like a lightning dragon that wanted to destroy all creatures, and rumblingly attacked him. The deep power that could open the sky and slit the earth emerged from the giant light column created by lightning. It was a natural power that only creatures living in the antiquity time could understand. It was so powerful that it could take the will of resistance from creatures away, which created a mood of being willing to get burned and destroyed. The 3 heaven flames were stopped in that ancient, powerful will. Their powers became chaotic. The 5 devils circling Shi Yan's hollow soul were also affected. They suddenly shrank into 5 gray light spots, as big as a walnut. The soul will assistance that came from the five devils was cut off. So, Shi Yin couldn't sense furthermore. That brutal lightning column had crushed all kinds of lights. The fire sea and the ice wall hindering its way were smashed as easy as breaking a dried tree branch. It was powerful like a storm, as it struck out invincibly. The eyes of Shi Yan's hollow soul were like ice sabers, with a strange red light sparkling indefinitely in the pupils. With such soul will, you dare to interfere the destined battle of the high-grade living beings like us? Your soul will disappear forever in the river of history. The thought of the world-extinguishing thunder flame reverberated in the entire space, tearing people's souls and thrusting towards people's hearts. The three heaven flames seemed to be tied down under this will. They couldn't even muster an attack. Master, this is the world-extinguishing thunderlight of the world-extinguishing thunder flame. It's the overflowing of his original will. In this world, besides some scarce substances, no soul could bear it directly. This war is ours. Your soul shouldn't enter this place. The Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame addressed Shi Yin, its master, for the first time. In its eyes, perhaps Shi Yin was about to fall here. There should be no soul of any living beings in this space except for the heaven flames. If he dared to go against the rules of the destined battle, he would be punished. The ice-cold flame and the earth flame sent him their worried thoughts. As they could sense the danger Shi Yin was about to bear, they were all anxious. The world-extinguishing thunder light struck down furiously, covering Shi Yan's hollow soul and burning it. The three heaven flames were desperate. However, inside the world-extinguishing thunder light, a blood spot was still sparkling, as beautiful as a ruby. Chapter 588. Cracks in the Blue Dome of Heaven. Chapter 588. Cracks in the Blue Dome of Heaven. Shi Yan's hollow soul perished. The world-extinguishing thunder light could burn all kinds of soul powers. The thunder light even pierced through space to reach his host's soul. Patterned light rippled from the blood vein ring like small streams, soaking his host's soul, covering it in layers. Under such care, his soul was strengthened with so many unbreakable barriers. The original power of the world-extinguishing thunder flame was cut off. It couldn't break through more layers of defensive barriers. In that peculiar space, the world-extinguishing thunder light expanded immensely, illuminating the entire fire sea created by the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame. Under the thunder light, even the Nine Serenities soul-devouring flame's original soul power was running out quickly. Only a blood-red light wasn't affected. It was still sparkling gloriously, as if it were the most shining star in the sky. Inside the blood-red light, a flow of Shi Yan's thought condensed, turning into another hollow soul. Shi Yan had created the connection with this space once again. Impossible. The world-extinguishing thunder flame hissed and snarled in the void. Thunder and lightning were moving crazily, as a massive willpower heavily pressed down rumblingly from the sky. The blood-red light remained. Shi Yan's hollow soul hid inside, facing up the sky. His face was cold like an icicle as he grinned. This was the power of the blood vein ring. He didn't know why this power wasn't afraid of the world-extinguishing flaming light, but he knew for sure that the blood vein ring was a divine tool, and the spirit or the soul inside was mysteriously unpredictable, with an unimaginable divine ability. With the aid of the blood vein ring, his soul was undying, and he could maintain his sound mind. The acupuncture points all over his body were swelling as the negative energy rolled like an unceasingly surging river towards his sea of consciousness. When the negative energy was seething, Shi Yin felt so painful he wanted to cut it off. However, he just gritted his teeth and endured. When the five devils received the torrential negative energy as 5 gray light dots, they materialized once again, appearing around Shi Yan's hollow soul. The pentagonal seal was formed again, resuming the barrier that locked his hollow soul. Shi Yan's mentality, spirit, and soul fused as one, leading the 5 devils' willpower. A pattern light halo expanded inside the world-extinguishing thunder light. The world-extinguishing thunder light shattered like a broken mirror while light sparkled everywhere. The aura of the ancient power from the world-extinguishing thunder flame fractured bit by bit. Its soul power was consumed by a big part. Within a short period, it couldn't gather enough energy for another attack. There shouldn't be a situation that I can't control. The world-extinguishing thunder flame thundered crazily. This was the first time it showed its fear. The flame seemed to realize something really terrible. It twisted, struggling in the air in an attempt to take control of the situation again. The three heaven flames burst out at the same time. Their powers struck straight up to the sky, furiously entangling with the world-extinguishing thunder flame's original consciousness, and wore out each other. Shi Yan's hollow soul was as firm as a rock. It continued to absorb the negative soul energy of the five devils to push the power further. After an unknown period, Shi Yan found that this magical space started to collapse little by little, as though this illusion was being cut off. Dazzling rays of light bloomed. Those rays were like sharp sabers, slashing through the space wall. Space slits appeared as the space power hovered. Havoc spread around. Suddenly, a divine light spread out from Shi Yan's eyes. He was scrutinizing the light sword wrecking the space. His bright eyes reflected the space lightsaber's trajectory. Suddenly, a lightsaber slashed down directly on his hollow soul. Shi Yan's hollow soul trembled, then absorbed the light sword like a sponge sucking water. The wonderful feeling of being able to control space swelled in his heart. This miraculous but chaotic space suddenly became familiar and lovely to him. All lightsabers in the space seemed to turn into his soul's tentacles, creating a magical connection. His thought flickered, and his soul focused on locking a space lightsaber. A marvelous thing happened. A space lightsaber, which was cutting the space around it, suddenly stopped. Gradually, it changed and transformed into an extension of Shi Yan's hollow soul. Shi Yan felt touched. A foreign soul fluctuation was created between him and that lightsaber. The phantom created by space power had become a clone of his soul, which he could control easily. Shi Yan was thrilled. He started to gather his mental power to supplement each space lightsaber. Shortly, 10 clones made of space power stood next to him. They carried the extremely sharp space power, striking towards the original soul of the world-extinguishing thunder flame in the dome of the sky. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The world-extinguishing thunder flame's ancient god phantom was cut off. Each part was sent to a different space, which didn't leave it a chance to gather again. The three heaven flames shot out at the same time towards the original seal of the world-extinguishing thunder flame. Light interweaved in the sky as the world-extinguishing thunder flame's original seal was crushed. It then surged like a tsunami before it was separated. Shi Yan continued to create more space sabers, using his soul to manipulate them to destroy the world-extinguishing thunder flame's original seal. Crack, crack, crack. Space collapsed completely, becoming a space of nothingness and chaos. The world-extinguishing thunder flame's original seal was cut into pieces, sending to different spaces, which cut off their connection. Over the shady firmament old mound above Shi Yan's head was a light performance. Such a marvel couldn't be described enough with words. The war devil, ghost hunter, devouring gold silkworm, king of demonic insect, and the Holy Spirit God lifted their heads to watch the wonderful fireworks above their heads. They seemed to forget everything else. Several thousand li away from Shi Yan, Ai paled on a broken gravestone. Blood trickled from her mouth. Her bright eyes suddenly sparkled as she looked at the strange phenomenon above her head. She didn't know what was going on over there. In the old tomb, the two sages of the Ghost Mark clan were fighting with Laimo and Ai Po. They suddenly felt the tremendous change of heaven and earth. They all felt terrified, looking at the dim void above their heads. Their eyes showed their extreme fear. Laimo's team of the Spirit Realm warriors was bewildered. They stopped fighting, looking at the sky. Not only underground, but the situation on the surface of the shady firmament old mound was also the same. The sun, the moon, and the stars all appeared at the same time in the sky. Countless dazzling light dots exploded. Space was torn open, revealing many cracks. From those cracks, ori of powers that didn't belong to the Grace mainland were diffusing. Under such phenomenon, Many peak experts of the Grace mainland felt scared, as they could sense the strange anomaly of the power in their bodies. This is the sage who used to strike a fatal attack on Yin shouted. But he was terrified, not knowing what to say. Cracks of the blue dome of heaven. The void lock was crushed. Ha ha ha. God help us. 10 ancient clans can finally see the sun again. Clansmen sealed in different spaces can go home now. Tears lingered in the two sages' eyes as they were watching the phenomenon in the sky. After a while, they laughed cheerily. Dead Soul Mountain Range. A green light dot appeared above the ruin of the Spirit Potion Valley. It then slowly enlarged, creating the Dead Soul's evil lair. Dark Spirit Clan's members emerged from the evil lair, appearing above the Spirit Potion Valley. They were sensing the change of the world in silence. Cracks of the blue dome of heaven. The barriers are broken. Our refugees will know the way home soon. A strong clansman of the Dark Spirit Clan had tears all over his face as he was sinking into his thought. Endless Sea. The heaven gate that led to seven-layered underworld and the fourth demon area shattered in just a blink of an eye. Human warriors guarding at the gate of the seven-layered underworld and the fourth demon area perished. Skies above seven-layered underworld and the four demon area appeared with many cracks, and they were expanding. The sky cracked open. The sun, moon, and stars appeared at the same time in the sky, illuminating the seven-layered and the fourth demon area. Experts of the Dark Clans and Demon Clans were watching the change in the sky above their heads, all cheerful and excited. In the north of the fourth demon area was a boundless dark green area, where the sky was high and green. The forest there was cold year-round. When the Demon Clan's warriors came there, they would feel the barrier barricading the north that they couldn't go through. Today, an area was torn apart. The green sky was ripped open by invisible hands. A hotshot of the Demon Clan staying near there saw a thick devil aura diffusing torrentially. When the dark green barrier disappeared completely, he saw many demonic beasts that could only be seen in old scriptures. Each of them was as big as a mountain, and they all had intimidating auras. Some people were riding the beasts. All of them had the aura of things from the ancient times. Deep under the dark sea in the seven-layered underworld, in an area which was 100,000 undersea, there was a barrier made of an unknown material. It was melting slowly. Dark chi rose turbulently from the dark sea. Bubbles broke, releasing thick dark chi. The three Yama kings of the underworld headed toward the dark sea from other places. They were shivering in thrill. Seals of the bottom three layers of the seven-layered underworld are broken. Yama King Abi faced the sky and thundered, as his aura shot up to the sky like a furious rainbow. I wonder whether any of our great seniors survive in the three bottom layers of underworld. It's been so many years. Yama King Hei Tian sank into his thoughts. He muttered while whining. The strenuous life of our tribe has come to an end, finally. Yama King Hades laughed with the clansmen behind him. The three layers of underworld that were concealed are the root of our Dark Clan. If our seniors there are still alive, our Dark Clan will control this world once again. Most importantly, we will have the chance to learn the lost dark secret techniques of our tribe. We will have the power of the Dark God. Strange phenomena also happened in the other heaven gates that led to foreign lands. The heaven gates connected the Grace mainland and many other regions were shattered too. From outside the Grace mainland, the barriers between the mainland and the other strange spaces were all broken shortly. Experts of the divine great land, who knew the secrets of the antiquity time, paled when they watched the change of the sky. Their faces turned ash-gray. Chapter 589. Burn the Soul. Chapter 589. Burn the Soul. Yin didn't know that the world out there had an earth-shaking change because of him. His soul got back to his body. He lifted his head to look at the beautiful light like rainbows above him. He felt the strange movement of earth and heaven aura around him. His sea of consciousness was spaciously extended. Flows of space power poured into his sea of consciousness from that magical space. They rooted in his sea of consciousness, entangled and grew together with each flow of his soul consciousness. It was a misty area in his pupils. He was still sinking in that wonderful scene created by that space change. He wanted to hold on to that space from the time it started to collapse until it detached completely. He was looking for some meanings of space power. This was the experience he could meet by chance but could never wish for. To warriors cultivating space power, experience the great change of space was like reading a precious scripture which lectured the nature of space. This is extremely precious to him. He sank into that area. Gradually, the earth-shaking change of the void above his head disappeared. Everything restored as usual. However, earth and heaven energy in the underground of the shady firmament old mound had an inexplicably miraculous change due to the current occurrence. Spiritual chi here became thicker, and the way they were circling also changed. Currently, earth and heaven's spiritual chi here with different forms of energy blended all together that warriors could sense, but couldn't use them. It was strange that those energy forms and the beams of light with different kinds of powers Yin saw in the wonderful space were similar. It was like the energies of that space suddenly flooded the Grace mainland. The great change of the void above his head disappeared completely. 3 glorious flames cut the space and appeared in front of him. The 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame flashed then sank into Yan's host soul, where it would use his soul power to restore its vitality. The ice-cold flame and the earth flame turned into 2 small flames, releasing the distinctive energy fluctuations of the heaven flames. War Devil and Ghost Hunter scattered to guard him in case anything would happen all of a sudden. Deep in Yan's pupils were sharp space blades. From his spot, he seemed to have connections with many other fine spaces. He gave people a vague feeling, which was hard to capture with their eyes or soul consciousness. The wounds on his body were all healed. There was no open cut on his body now. He was vigorously healthy. Dense earth and heaven's spiritual chi floated near him like the thick mist. It slowly moved toward him. Energy light dots flew around like lighting bugs, proactively getting into his body, absorbing into his internal organs and limbs. They gradually refined in his body, becoming part of his blood and flesh. Long afterward, his eyes shone like precious gems. His aura rocketed. Space cracks like willow branches opened around him. Space power that looked like gossamer strongly overflowed into his body. He was still sinking in his magical status of comprehending. He didn't notice the changes of the world out there. The gathering point of the Ghost Mark clan in the shady firmament old mound. 2 sages of the Ghost Mark clan were laughing crazily. Their draft power was being restored more quickly under the new torrential heaven and earth aura. God favors us. Clear tears lingered in his eyes. The complex tattoos on his body, like the vessel system, started to move. His aura changed shortly. Now it was like the immeasurable ocean. A wave of fierce soul fluctuations twirled and expanded from him as the core. Aipa and Laimo were standing in the front. They felt their sea of consciousness was torn apart by a tornado. At the same time, their flows of soul consciousness were so heavy they couldn't move them smoothly. Soul dark exterminating spell. A sage spat out 4 words of the ghost line written charm with a strange melody. The 4 written charms sparkled like precious gems. Glorious light shot out grumblingly. Hundreds of light beams entangled like gossamer in the crystal-clear written charms. They were forming a vague but mysterious and complicated. The written charms stormed forward. For tremendous soul fluctuations surged, darting toward Aipa and Laimo's team. Aipa, Laimo, and the others were petrified under the intimidating energy of the 4 written charms. They stood blankly with dull expressions on their faces. For written charm detached then drilled toward Aipa, Laimo, Gongsun Tao, and Zhuohui, hitting their chest. These 4 were like they got the body-fixing technique. They didn't inch as all powers in their bodies were sealed. Even their souls were confined, and they couldn't urge their thought, either. At this moment, the other sage started to perform his deadly attack. Yi Xiong, Zhu Yi, and Yuing paled. They felt distressed, but they didn't dare to linger, immediately retreated. The storage rings on Yi Xiong's fingers opened at once. More than 10 secret treasures flew out. All carried massive energy with magical effects. They burst off instantly in front of Yixiong, created unbreakable attacking stream energy. Firefly insects dare vie with the bright moon. In the void, a fabric sheet full of green ghost scripture unfolded, covering all the energy Yixiong had released. The sheet then twisted and squeezed. Many mysterious and complicated ghost scriptures moved like an angry river, releasing crazy and brutal energy fluctuations. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Attacks by numerous secret treasures were crushed inside the sheet. Yixiong's bones shook. Blood dripped from his face, his hair disheveled. He looked like a demon with such appearance. He got hurt badly. Go. I got your back. Yixiong gritted his teeth as though he was a wild beast backed in the corner. He wanted to risk his life. In his eyes was a place of white snow. Yixiong's glabella cracked. Drops of dark blood were squeezed out, rolling down his nose to his mouth. Ha! He screamed wildly. Yixiong spurred out a dark purple bead. The bead then took in the drop of blood from his glabella, sparkling with formidable soul fluctuation. There was a tiny man inside the bead. He was swinging his arms busily as if he was controlling something. That little man was Yixiong's soul seal. When the precious bead appeared, waves of soul energy rippled upward, covering the space in front of Yixiong. Old Yi. Zhu Yi's eyes almost cracked. Tears lingered in his sockets, his face painful and sorrowful. He knew that precious bead was a level 7 sacred treasure with Yixiong's soul seal, which could create an extremely firm soul fortress. At this moment, Yixiong took this bead out and poured his soul seal into it as he knew he couldn't escape death this time. He could only use his soul to urge the bead and have the last battle of his life. Move. Go. Yixiong's voice came from the little man inside the bead. He was scared and anxious. Yu Ying's eyes reddened. She clenched her jaw, attempting to risk her life, too. Go. You must tell the sect what happened here. Yixiong screamed crazily. It's happened in the Spirit Treasure Clan. As an elder, you don't want to see our clan destroy, right? While screaming, the tiny human in that bead was crying as if he was burning. His soul power ceased quickly. Layers or energy barriers expanded from the bead, creating an unyielding soul wall, blocking that sage and his dangerous attacks. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. At the place where soul attacks impact, smoke evaporated. After each flow of smoke exuded, YX's soul seal would get 1 grade smaller. Soon, Yixiong's soul seal had reduced half. If you won't go, you will fall here with me. This is a long-term calamity. You must come back alive. You must keep the inheritance of our sect. Yixiong roared like a beast. Zhu Yi shook as if there was a bucket of water pouring on him. He woke up. Go. We're going now. Zhu Yi cried. Tears rolled on his face, but he forced himself to turn away. He urged the secret treasure in his body and escaped. YY hesitated. Her eyes reddened as she said firmly, Iji, we will take revenge for you. Then, moonlight bloomed from her body. She flew away as fast as light. Ai Per, Layamo, and the others were fixed by the soul dark exterminating spell. They couldn't move an inch. Vitality in their bodies ceased like a sapling was uprooted. Gradually, they didn't breathe anymore. It's time to erase human race. The Ghost Mark clan's sage muttered to himself. He swung his hand, and the written charm scripture flew out, covering the spirit realm experts Ai Per, Layamo, and the others. Under the invincible power of the written charm scripture, Ai Per, Layamo, and their teams were like dust scattering with the wind. The written charm scripture glowed. The mysterious Chi seemed to be recovered a lot. It was floating above the group of the Ghost Mark clan, scattering some drops. The clansmen were crazily happy. They opened their mouths greedily to receive those drops. Their auras had gradually been restored. Those two. A sage frowned. He then released his soul consciousness to sense for a while, then shook his head begrudgingly. He used the escape technique. He paid the big price of hurting himself to get away. He's tens of thousands of li away. With this far distance, it's hard to kill them. Too bad. The human force can be strengthened a little bit. It's all right. said the sage who was holding the written charm scripture. When the space cracks appear, Chi will flood in gradually. Our clan will recover shortly. What we should do now is not to chase after them. We should try to connect with the expelled clans to conspire our big undertaking. Yeah, it's true. Besides the Ghost Mark clan, the Demon clan, the Monster clan, the Giant clan, the Dark Spirit clan, the Corpse clan, and the Sea clan will appear here. We should get there earlier so as our benefits will be greater later. It's been so many years. I thought that we would have died because of the world-extinguishing thunder flame. Now we can see the sun again. God still favor us. Hey, where's the world-extinguishing thunder flame? I don't see it here. I almost forget it. Let me try to search for it. Chapter 590, Aftermath. Chapter 590, Aftermath. Zhu Yi and Yu Ying had run away for over 10,000 li. However, they were still in the underground. They hadn't reached the surface yet. Hiding in the area of phosphorus ghost mushrooms, Zhu Yi was as pale as white paper. Blood trickled from the corners of his mouth, and he was taking in pellets to recover. He tried to adjust his breathing, then took out the sound stone, trying to contact the others. Zhu Yi was using secret treasures to flee away underground instantly. To activate these treasures, he had to squeeze all of his essence chi. When he had no beam of energy in his body, the treasures would take him away. At this moment, Zhu Yi had drained his power. He was in a perilous situation, and had to use more secret treasures to defend himself while using the pellets to restore his power and search for help. He didn't know that the two sages of the Ghost Mark clan didn't pursue him, so he was trying his best to recover fast. The sound stone in his hand sparkled with strange light. Zhu Yi poured a thought into it, screaming using his soul consciousness. Where are you guys? I'm not far from you. How are you? Yu Ying answered immediately. Her voice was feeble, which indicated that she was exhausted. Certainly, she had been hurt too. Usually, the escape technique that could jump more than 10,000 li in just a blink would cause damage to the users. Zhu Yi's case and Yu Ying's case were the same. Don't rush. Contact Yun Xiao and tell her not to get back here. Zhu Yi's eyes reddened. He hurried to advise the other. I can't find her now. I don't know where she's gone. Perhaps she's too far from us, so she couldn't receive the thought from the sound stone. Do you have any news of Shi Yan? No. Zhu Yi's face darkened. He felt regret, while sorrow filled his heart. He kept silent for a long time. Before Shi Yan had left, he had triggered AI Per, Lamo, and their teams to make them risk their lives against the Ghost Mark clan. At the same time, he had cared about them, asking them to leave that place. However, Zhu Yi and Yi Xiong didn't value his words. They had hesitated, and then decided to stay and fight. And they had to bear a painful aftermath. Lamo and AI Per died. Yi Xiong had burnt his soul, which wasn't different from getting both his soul and body destroyed. Under the imposing soul power of the two sages, they had only one choice, which was to hurt themselves to flee away. Now, Zhu Yi and Yu Ying were feeling a deep regret. They regretted that they didn't listen to Shi Yan's advice, that they shouldn't have been greedy for the magical written charm scripture and the world-extinguishing thunder flame. And now, they had fallen into such an aftermath. After they had their failure, they recalled Shi Yan's broad vision. They couldn't help but want to contact him. Unfortunately, Shi Yan's soundstone seemed to be broken. They couldn't track down his signal. This gave them another worry. Hey! As Zhu Yi was sinking in his regret, he heard Yu Ying's surprised scream. Zhu Yi was shaken, asking immediately, What problem? Did you find something? The soul-sensing stone you gave me suddenly glowed. Yu Ying wasn't so sure. I'll check to see who is that. Hold on. Okay. Shi Yan. He's near me. Zhu Yi's eyes brightened. Thoughts crossed his head as he said abruptly, You go get him. After I've recovered, I'll get there. Okay. There were many cold plants growing inside the gray mist, together with ruined gravestones and ancient corpses. Yu Ying took a deep breath, then urged the moonlight power she had accumulated for so many years. She was holding a ring that looked like a silver moon, walking towards a specific direction. At this moment, Ying didn't have any disdainful thoughts toward Shi Yin. Quite the contrary, she suddenly respected him. At the critical moment, he was determined enough to retreat. He wasn't greedy for treasures. Such wise moves coming from a junior made Ying feel shame. She didn't know it was due to the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame that Shi Yin had such precise vision of the whole picture. She assumed that Shi Yin was wise and could foresee the future events from the current details. She started to respect him. When she sauntered towards Shi Yin's general direction, Ying's face became more respectful as she thought what to say when she met him. She was shy and worried if Shi Yin would mock them for what they'd done. Young talented men like Shi Yin were all arrogant, and they didn't want to obey the elders. When they talked, they often didn't leave the way out. The terrible failure this time was because they didn't listen to his advice. As she thought about the mockery manners Shi Yin would show her, her steps became heavier. However, she had to go there. Her condition was bad. Since she had taken risks and used the escape technique, she had to consume a big part of her energy. Her soul consciousness was damaged too. If she met a stranger with a profound realm, or the ghost Mark clan's clansmen chasing after her, she couldn't use the escape technique one more time. Only death would welcome her then. Ying didn't have a good impression of Shi Yin. However, in the current circumstances, she had no other choice around. After Ying had crossed through a transition of cold florist while wearing a complicated complexion, she found Shi Yin. War Devil, king of demonic insects, the devouring gold silkworm, the holy spirit god, the ghost hunter, and the 2 heaven flames were the most loyal guards, securing Shi Yin in the center or their barricade. Ying peeked at him and shivered instantly. Her eyes showed that she was disbelieving. Her bright eyes gazed at Shi Yin, who was panting heavily with his open mouth. This was scary. At this moment, the force Shi Yin had could kill any third sky of spirit realm warrior. She knew that Shi Yin had the War Devil. Ying sensed for a while and found that the auras from the Ghost Hunter and the King of Demonic Insects weren't weaker than her, a third sky of spirit realm expert. And she didn't dare to sense the Holy Spirit God and the 2 heaven flames, so she didn't know how strange they were. But she could confirm that since these 3 aliens could stay at the same spot with the Ghost Hunter, the King of Demonic Insects, and the War Devil, they should be absolutely formidable. Especially the ice-cold flame. This cold flame had a freezing aura, which told her that it was ranked number 8 among the 9 heaven flames. The ice-cold flame, the mysterious heaven flame. Ying was scared. She smacked her tongue discreetly, her eyes bright. Finally, she understood why Yun Hao, the cult master of the Radiant God cult, had valued this young man that much. For his initiation, he had summoned all the elders. At that time, she had looked down on him. Just like the other elders, she thought that Yun Hao just wanted to make a small thing big, and they assumed that Yun Hao had favored this young man too much. But now, she didn't think like that anymore. She admired Yun Hao, and she didn't have any doubt or objection. The force Shi Yin revealed here was enough to fight the 7 elders together. What was this concept? As Ying got it clear, she was totally convinced. A pair of brutal monster eyes gazed at her, while a flow of murderous aura slapped her face. Ying was scared, and her face changed dramatically. She stood still, not daring to move. Ghost Hunter strolled towards her alone. It had tiptoed a little bit, as if it was afraid that it would bother Shi Yin. After it walked more than 100 meters away from Shi Yin, the monster accelerated, dashing towards Ying. Ying's face was bitter, but she couldn't cry. She didn't have any power left, so she had to come here to find Shi Yin for help. However, right when she saw her, a humanoid beast had placed its eyes on her. This was an intimidating beast, and with her current condition, she couldn't do anything to counter. Of course, Ghost Hunter wouldn't care about her. Letting AI run away had irritated the Ghost Hunter. Seeing another woman sneak into the area, the monster wanted to use Ying to vent out its anger. Shi Yin. As Ying saw the oncoming danger, she couldn't help but pitch her voice. Shi Yin was sinking in his strange status. Hearing that pitiful call, his brows convulsed as he sent a thought away. The Ghost Hunter savagely stormed towards Ying to attack her. Dark chi and devil chi twirled around it, as the beast shook the bell to kill her. That great change of heaven and earth wasn't a good thing to mankind, but the ghost hunter could earn some benefits from it. It could feel the power in its body increasing little by little, while its speed of accumulating dark chi and devil chi was accelerating. Also, its soul fluctuation became more fluent and flexible. Yu Ying's face was sorrowful. Seeing the ghost hunter coming, she tried to urge the scarce remaining energy to counter the beast for a while. Right at this moment, the ghost hunter halted in the air as if it were frozen, not moving an inch. The humanized pupils of the ghost hunter showed its suspicions. It secretly sent its sole thought to Shi Yin. After it received the confirmation, the beast begrudgingly returned and stood next to the war devil again. You should wait. He needs more time. The ice-cold flame had bounced for a while, then shot a soul fluctuation towards Yu Ying to send her a clear thought. Yu Ying was astounded. She looked at the ice-cold flame. Are you explaining to me? Yeah, he's comprehending the power Upanishad. Currently, he can't talk with you. The ice-cold flame continued. You can wait here, or if you don't have time, you can leave. The ice-cold flame and Shi Yin had a deep soul connection, so it knew the relation between Shi Yin and Yu Ying. If Shi Yin didn't ask the ghost hunter to kill her, it would explain the situation to her. Yu Ying received the thought from the ice-cold flame the second time. Now, she could confirm that the spirit that had sent her message was the heaven flame. She was filled with surprise and wanted to inquire further. However, seeing the ice-cold flame didn't want to react to her, she could only be wise and keep her mouth shut. She waited in silence, with the hope that Shi Yin would wake up soon. She had many suspicions in her heart. Elder Yu, how are you? I'm coming right away. Suddenly, the soundstone in her hand transmitted Zhu Yi's thought. He seemed to be cheered up. You should wait for a while to avoid unnecessary troubles. Yu Ying was surprised for a while, and then sent him thought. It's a little bit strange here. When you arrive, don't hurry. Better to tiptoe. What happened? Shi Yin wanted to attack you? No. Wait until you get here. You will know. Yu Ying forced a smile. Chapter 591. Mediocre. Chapter 591. Mediocre. Yu Ying still looked at Shi Yin. She didn't dare to act rashly as she was afraid of the ghost hunter's attack. She was waiting for Zhu Yi in silence. Shi Yin currently had nothing abnormal. He looked like he was sleeping while standing quietly. However, energy-fluctuating waves were rippling from him unceasingly, and it seemed to get stronger from time to time. Yu Ying didn't know what was happening in his body. However, the only thing she could confirm was that Shi Yin was having some positive changes. From the ghost hunters and the war devil's reactions, she understood that Shi Yin was learning the meanings of some power. With this point of view, Yu Ying started to study him. After a while, she recognized that Shi Yin was having a deep sleep. However, the space next to him was distorted chaotically as though a pair of invisible hands pulling and tearing space. From the beginning until now, these invisible hands were affecting the space surrounding him. Yu Ying was astounded. Of course, she didn't know that Shi Yin had used space power to enter the spirit realm. This kind of power was really rare and mysterious that not many people paid attention to it in the whole Grace mainland. It wasn't that the Upanishads of this kind of power wasn't strong enough. Quite the contrary. From the ancient time up to now, as long as there was martial technique or secret treasure in space category, they were all terrifically intimidating. It was because the Upanishads of space power was really difficult to comprehend. No one had considered it the main power to learn and improve their strength. Also, there was no book or precursors to guide them. Warriors who studied this kind of power had to do it alone. If one had to search and study one kind of power Upanishad alone, it was like when a blind man is groping on an elephant. It would be tough to get the whole picture. Usually, they could only know the surface, and they could never understand the true meanings of the power thoroughly. Without someone having a complete understanding of the power of the Upanishads, it meant the warrior couldn't get a strong competence. When he used it to level up in spirit realm, it would be a strenuous challenge. Many people could never find an opportunity using space power to level up again, even if they had to spend their whole life. When Ewing recognized that Shi Yin was comprehending space Upanishads, she was so astounded that she almost screamed. She understood that Shi Yin had encountered some change, that he had a new perception of space power. It was really rare that the warrior who practiced in this area perhaps would never have such a chance for the rest of his life, which kept him from leveling up or having a new breakthrough. Space power. Ewing felt bitter. She shook her head, her eyes complicated. This man is imposingly exaggerating enough. According to his realm and his age at this moment, in the future, he will achieve a profound realm. If his main power is space power, he can gradually improve it. One day, when he's able to use space power to break through the realm, his potential at that time would be immeasurable. The more Ewing got to know Shi Yin, the more regret she had. She regretted that she shouldn't treat him that way. A boundless potential warrior like him had joined the Radiant God cult. Someday in the future, no one could say what he could contribute to the cult. Perhaps he could surpass Yuan Hao and take the Radiant God cult to the peak. As soon as this thought arose in her heart, Ewing was struck. She took a deep breath. Another thought filled her head that she couldn't erase it. She must establish a good relationship with this kid. Ewing made up her mind. At the same time, Ewing received Zhu Yi's message from the Soundstone. Her lips moved, sending her message. Then, she continued waiting in silence. Indeed, Zhu Yi quietly arrived 5 minutes later. The ghost hunter immediately recognized the change. Its brutal eyes shot over to a shady area. Murderous aura condensed on its body. Around 100 meters away from Ewing's left, a miraculous explosion resounded from the ground. A cone-shaped silver secret treasure emerged from the ground. Zhu Yi appeared from the treasure. He instantly hid the treasure away, covered his aura, then looked at Shi Yin. At first glance, Zhu Yi discolored in fright, his eyes bright as the torch. He was amazed. This? Zhu Yi gawked. His face showed that he was disbelieving what he was looking at. Just like Ewing, the strange creatures next to Shi Yin had scared him. It's so dangerous. At this moment, Zhu Yi knew why Ewing didn't state things clearly. The force Shi Yin displayed here was exaggerating. Such force was even stronger than the big families from the 7 ancient factions. And he's just a young man. Zhu Yi had a wider knowledge than Ewing. With just a glare, he knew the value of the ghost hunter, the devouring gold silkworm, and the king of demonic insects. He also knew that the ice-cold flame and the earth flame were the heaven flames with life and consciousness. The only thing he couldn't get was the Holy Spirit God. Basically, creatures like the Holy Spirit God shouldn't exist in this world. He had never known this kind of marvelous soul before. He was frightened. Dash. In the gathering area of the Ghost Mark clan in the shady firmament Old Mound. The Ghost Mark clan sages were using their soul to sense this continent. After a long while, the two sages almost opened their eyes at the same time. I can sense the feeble aura of the world-extinguishing thunder flame near that kid, but it's too weak. I can't see clearly. It disappeared into spaces, I suppose. Perhaps it clutches on that kid and hides again. Possible. Then, it's simple. We also want to kill that kid. When we destroy him, the world-extinguishing thunder flame will be exposed. It's true. Without the host, it has nowhere to hide. And the energies in earth and heaven have changed. Otherwise, in such a far distance like this, we can't attack him even once. Get him. After the two sages had a conversation using their souls, they decided what to do. They didn't hesitate, taking action all of a sudden. Dash. Shi Yin closed his eyes as if he was sleeping, sinking into some wonderful realm. He gradually restored his consciousness, awakening from the changes of space power. Right when he had just opened his eyes, he immediately recognized the change of energy above his head. He felt shivers sending down his spine. Shi Yin beamed a faint smile from the corner of his mouth. He opened his eyes, faced up to look at the void above his head, then snorted. Damn it! Those two old monsters only know how to disturb me. Whirling wind. Thick, mysterious een was gathering above his head, creating long chains that naked eyes could see. Those chains then moved into a magical formation that looked like a bird catching net with dense mesh. It seemed to be able to crush any creatures inside the net with the smallest energy fluctuation. The intimidating energy fluctuation in that formation could move the mountain and level the sea. Such aura pressing down gave Zhu Yi and Yuing a feeling of a small loser that didn't have a way to counter. "Shi Yin, be careful," Yuing couldn't help but shout. Yuing knew the ones who attacked them were the two true God Realm sages of the Ghost Mark clan. Their strength was beyond her upper endurance limit. "We're over." Zhu Yi whined in pain. His face was grim. He felt no strength left in him, as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss where he couldn't see a beam of light. The formation above their heads was pressing down. Its coverage was wide, which included him and Yuing. Under the attack of such powerful and evil force, these two had nothing to encounter. Since they had spent too much energy for the escape technique, they couldn't use that trick one more time. They could only look at the formation snatching them. Zhu Yi felt a big regret that he shouldn't find and gather with Shi Yin. If he hadn't got here, he wouldn't be involved. He could see that the two true God Realm sages of the Ghost Mark clan had aimed for Shi Yin. He and Yuing were just two innocent passengers that got involved. The formation in the void was changing constantly and magically. The long chains made of mysterious yin qi were like they could take the souls away. They were releasing the vehement soul waves while pressing down furiously. Zhu Yi closed his eyes in misery. He didn't struggle to resist since he knew that he had no other ways around to counter with force under this circumstance. Yuing gazed at Shi Yin. She didn't shift her line of sight as if she was waiting for a miracle. She didn't know why she had a feeling that even the true God Realm experts couldn't eradicate Shi Yin. Such feeling had no actual pieces of evidence. Perhaps it was because Shi Yin was too calm. He didn't reveal his panic as he should. This strange nonchalance gave her a beam of hope. In her eyes, Shi Yin's image became unreal. Shi Yin was still standing at his spot, but he seemed to stay in another space dimension. He was so vague, which gave people a feeling that his image was reflected in so many broken mirrors, as if his body was split apart, and his arms and legs were kept in different space cracks respectively. However, she knew that Shi Yin had never moved. Thus, she didn't know whether this marvelous hallucination in her eyes was real or false. Abruptly, Shi Yin diffused an aura that could distort space. They then saw Shi Yin's arms, which were detached, appeared from another space crack, trying to rip off the space above his head. It was like there was an invisible silky cloth in front of Shi Yin, which he had torn open forcefully. As his hands were tearing, a space slit appeared in front of him. Beams of light shot out from that crack gloriously. Meteors sparkled then disappeared into the galaxy. It was a marvel. The terrifying attack from the formation above their head was created by the two true God Realm sages of the Ghost Mark clan could strangle the experts of the Divine Great Land like Yun Hao. However, after the space crack had appeared in front of Shi Yin, that thick attack became disordered. When the power of that formation finally slashed down, the space slit in front of Shi Yin was as big as an open mouth of a ferocious beast. Numerous chains made of mysterious yin qi fell like a shower, but all of them were pouring into the space crack, being swallowed and leaving nothing. Shi Yin was calm. Strange light sparkled in his palms. The wonderful space change shot out from his body. That space crack was like a monster swallowing everything as it dissolved all the attacks of the two true God Realm experts. A bunch of light flashed. The space that was torn apart was closed. The void above him was restored. Shi Yin stood steadfastly as if nothing had happened. However, his face was pale. He looked at the sky, snorted then said indifferently, "Well, mediocre." Chapter 592. Apprehending. Chapter 592. Apprehending. At the gathering spot of the Ghost Mark clan, the two sages had their face as yellow as earth. The brilliance in their eyes faded. One of them was astounded. His body suddenly trembled hard as if he just got hit mercilessly. He swung his arms. His eyes were panic-stricken as though he was drunk and lost his cognition. Does that kid really have the spirit realm cultivation base? The sage holding the Een written charm scripture was relatively calm. He clenched his jaw, drawing the power of the written charm scripture. He inquired indignantly, how could he solve our attack? Although we haven't recovered fully, that first sky of spirit realm brat could survive? Is it the time changing that creates such strange things? This man's strange. He seems to know the supernatural Upanishads of our Ghost Mark clan. I wonder what his relationship with our clan is. We must find him to make it clear. You stay here. I'm going there to see if I can catch him. Be careful. You haven't restored your strength fully. That kid is strange and evil. Don't fall into his trap. Yeah. Yu Ying's eyes were as bright as diamonds. She looked at the man ahead of her. His slim fingers balled into fists, her soft body shivering. Unbelievable. Shi Yin had only the power of the spirit realm, but he could solve the attack of two true God realm experts. She could see clearly that Shi Yin had used space power. This man, does he really have a deep understanding of space power's true meanings? Yu Ying was frightened. Zhu Yi waited for a long while, and he found that the intimidating power above their heads had disappeared all of a sudden. He hesitated. He couldn't press his doubt looking at the sky. He then saw a drifting cloud area on the horizon of the void, but there was no intimidating rippling energy wave anymore. What happened? Zhu Yi's voice was a bit hoarse as he was uncertain. Did Shi Yin solve that strike? Yu Ying forced a smile, then nodded. Zhu Yi was struck. Light shot out from his eyes. How could he do that? Space power. Space power? Zhu Yi was dazed. Suddenly, he shouted. He understands space power. You mean, he knows how to use space power? Yu Ying nodded the second time. Zhu Yi shivered, but he hadn't said anything for quite a long time, his face admiring. As his knowledge of space power was more profound than Yu Ying, he understood how formidable it could be once Shi Yin could control space power. An expert who knew how to use space power smoothly would be the nightmare of enemies. If they didn't have the secret treasures that could restrain it, a warrior using space power could always move and cross between spaces. They had no means to lock down that warrior. In case this kind of warriors met an opponent he couldn't face, he could sneak into a space slit and escape without damaging his body or his secret treasures. Also, if they wanted to ambush the opponents, they would be the most dangerous assassins in this world. You can never predict when he will appear behind your back. This feeling is like having a spear placed at your throat. Extremely irritating. When this kind of warriors could perceive the slashing skill of the sharp space saber, he would become the best attacker. In this world, nobody has ever heard about something that space saber couldn't cut off. The space saber was more gruesome than the sharpest weapons. To it, there was nothing it couldn't pierce through. Bodies, treasures, mountains or rivers, even the souls. All found it hard to avoid the sharpness of space saber. Zhu Yi smacked his tongue in awe. He looked at Shi Yin from a far distance. His countenance changed constantly. Luckily, he wasn't an enemy. Zhu Yi felt lucky thinking about that, and the pressure in his heart was loosened a little bit. At this moment, Shi Yin suddenly turned to them, smiled and said, "How are you? Where are the others?" Zhu Yi and Yu Ying got their eyes distressed. Shi Yin was surprised. He was bewildered for a while, then asked, "Unexpected things happened?" Yi Xiong's dead, Zhu Yi sighed, his face bitter and sorrowful. He clenched his jaw, then shouted, "I swear, I have to take revenge for him. To give us an exit, he had to burn his soul." Yu Ying nodded, her face heavy and gloomy. Shi Yin wasn't so surprised. He sighed, then said faintly, "I knew it would happen. The two sages of the Ghost Mark clan are the true God realm experts. If you face them directly, it's almost impossible to win." Ghost Mark clan? Zhu Yi's eyes suddenly got colder. You know their identity? Although Zhu Yi and Yu Ying were the noble characters of the Radiant God cult and the Spirit Treasure sect, they didn't know much of these ancient races. Having heard Shi Yin say so, they were cheered up and hurried to urge him. "I know a little bit." Shi Yin nodded, then frowned. "Anyway, we can't stay here any longer. I think those two sages will come here shortly. We should leave first." Zhu Yi and Yu Ying were frightened. They nodded continuously. They feared for it. It wasn't that they were cowards. It was because of the big gap between them and the two sages. Along with the change of earth and heaven energy, the gap was extending. The longer they waited, the worse the situation could be. We should leave the shady firmament old mound first, then we will plan the next step. Sure Yin didn't linger. Taking back the war devil and the ghost hunter into the blood vein ring, he left directly. After this time of comprehending space power, he had vaguely touched the threshold of space power. Now he could use space power to create a space slit and guide all the attacks of his enemy into that slit, saving himself from harm. He had just tried the ability, and it didn't fail him. He was overjoyed that the space slit could even swallow a true God Realms attack. This meant he had another precious way to save his life. At the same time, after the washing of space power, the essence chi in his body had blended with a small amount of space power, which helped him trigger space power and that he could tear spaces as he pleased. Of course, his current understanding of space power was far behind the realm Zhui had thought of. However, he had made an encouraging step. Together with the increase of his realm, the ability to control space would become more fluent. At that time, he could make it change more magically. You don't want to find him? The 9 Serenity Soul devouring flame talked to him from deep inside his soul with a feeble voice. Its original seal had been divided and dragged into different spaces. Although it can't be eradicated with only that, its power had been damaged badly. As its original seal can't be joined again, it can't restore the power. At this moment, it isn't a threat anymore. Sure Yin beamed a faint smile. Don't worry. It can't hide. I know the space nodes of its parts of the original seal. Wait until my cognition of space power can leap another step. I'll go get it. You can take this chance to find the thing that can restrain that flame. At that time, you can subdue it directly, said the 9 Serenity Soul devouring flame. There's something that can restrain that flame? Sure Yan's eyes brightened. Of course, everything in this world has a nemesis. They promote and constrain each other. Nothing is an exception or an absolute. Even though its thunder and lightning power is special, there's something that it can't harm even a bit. As long as we can find them and forge a treasure, of course, we can capture it. Harumph, people don't know how to deal with it, but I know it pretty clear. Excellent. Seems it can't escape my hands. If one day you can collect all the 9 heaven flames, you will. Will what? You'll know at that time. Anyway, this is really hard. Almost impossible. What if I can do it? Then the mysteries you will perceive will be as profound as what God knows. Every creature will admire your fortune. Sure Yin was frightened. Until now, this 9 Serenity Soul devouring flame had ignored everything. Secret treasures or magical materials couldn't get into its eyes of God. As a person who sat on a summit and had experienced everything, it seemed to not put into its eyes anything. Except for Sure Yan's blood vein ring, it disregarded everything else. This was the first time this flame said something with a solemn voice. It astounded Sure Yan. Collecting 9 types of heaven flames. This thought rooted in his head. He couldn't help but think about it. The more he thought about it, the bigger the feeling he had about the existence of something really magical was. The 9 heaven flames included the primal chaos sacred flame, the world-extinguishing thunder flame, the 9 serenity soul-devouring flame, the immemorial demonic flame, the purgatory true flame, the Een spirit god flame, the vermilion bird true flame, the ice-cold flame, the vanishing corpse flame. Among these 9 heaven flames, the world-extinguishing thunder flame, the 9 serenity soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, the purgatory true flame, and the vanishing corpse flame had appeared. Sure Yin had the 9 serenity soul-devouring flame and the ice-cold flame. Yi Changfeng had the purgatory true flame, and the vanishing corpse flame stayed with Qing Ming, the master of the corpse god sect. If things went well and he could get the world-extinguishing thunder flame, it wouldn't be tough to get the vanishing corpse flame from the corpse god sect's master Qing Ming. However, since Yi Changfeng was his friend, it was hard to collect the purgatory true flame. But if he could find something equal to exchange with Yi Changfeng, it didn't sound impossible. Heaven flames could detect each other. As long as the primal chaos sacred flame, immemorial demonic flame, Een spirit god flame, and vermilion bird true flame existed in the Grace mainland, Perhaps he could meet them in the future, and that he could have the opportunities to get them all. Thoughts moved across his head. Shi Yan's eyes brightened. His complexion was solemn, as though he was considering the possibility. The uniting of the 9 flames that the 9 Serenity's thunder flame had mentioned was the greatest enticement. He couldn't help but want to carry out the plan immediately. We got out. Zhu screamed, then stormed out of a gloomy cave underground. He swung his arms and shouted. His sorrow seemed to be washed away. Yuing screamed, facing the high sky. Suddenly, she shouted with fear. Why does the sky look like that? Shi Yan got out, lifted his head to look at the sky. He was stunned. The sky was deep blue, just like a vast sea. However, the sun, the moon, and the stars were there all together. Stars scattered in the entire immense sky. Under this blue dome of the sky, earth and heaven energy was floating like thick milky mist, as though it had some wonderful changes. Countless unknown energies stormed out from different spaces, filling the whole sky. Chapter 593, Changing. Chapter 593, Changing. Shi Yan, Zhu, and Yuing gawked. They didn't know what happened out there that made the sun, moon, and stars appear in the sky at the same time. You are from the divine great land. Do you know what's going on? Shi Yan asked the 2 precursors with a silly face. Zhu and Yuing shook their heads. Forget it. We should get to the sect first. From this current situation, I can say the Grace mainland is having some great changes. We don't know what's going on here. Perhaps there are some books in the sects that mention it. We should study carefully, Zhu said uncertainly. Shi Yan and Yuing forced a smile, then nodded. The 3 of them left together. They had been running at fast speed for a while, but the sun, moon, and stars in the sky seemed to have no new changes, as though the Grace mainland would be like this from now on. Leaving that quiet and immense wasteland area of the shady firmament old mound, the 3 of them then accelerated to the fastest speed to reach the wonderful stone city. All warriors in the wonderful stone city were scared by the great change of the sky. They didn't know what was going on there, so they were all longing for Zhu. As Zhu was the city master of the wonderful stone city, right when he got back, he had checked out the situation of the city first. He got to know that Yun Xiu had brought the 4 juniors, Luo Xiao, Luo Ming, Li Mu Yu, and Bai Hui Quan back to the city earlier. Zhu sighed discreetly. What did you meet in there? Where's Yi Xiong? Yun Xiu took the 4 juniors. After they came back, she hurried to ask for the details. Yuing and Zhu immediately put on the sorrowful countenance, groaning insufficient details. Yun Xiu felt her heart sinking. From their expressions, she guessed the Yi Xiong was more unfortunate than lucky. However, she didn't have a deep relation with Yi Xiong or had witnessed that scene, so she wasn't too upset. Elder Yu, Elder Yun, I think you guys should come back to the Radiant God Cult and report what we'd experienced in the shady firmament old mound to Master Yin Hao. Yi Xiong's brows slammed together. I'm going to send the information immediately to tell them the details so as we can have a proper preparation. Yuing nodded. Although Yun Xiu didn't know the situation clearly, she didn't ask much. She knew that thing that happened in the tombs area wasn't good. Shi Yan, you certainly had some big harvests this time. After you get back to the Radiant God Cult, you should always be alert. I've always felt that the changes in the sky are somehow related to you. Zhu mused, then talked in a somber tone. Yuing and Yun Xiu looked at him with fright. Shi Yan was also surprised. I think you misunderstood something? What does it matter to me? Shaking his head, Zhu said, I can't say it clearly. I just have that feeling. Shi Yan beamed a forced smile, but he still talked indifferently. All right, I'll be more cautious. See you later when we have time. Now as he got the ethereal crystals, he was a little bit agitated. He wanted to build the massive-scale teleport formation to form the connection with the endless sea. Immortal Island also had a teleport formation. However, the distance it could teleport was relatively short. When he left the endless sea, he got to know about the space nodes from Yang Tian Emperor. The space nodes were the directions of movement between teleport formations. As long as he could get the precise space nodes, his teleport formation could perform its functions. Of course, He wasn't so sure that the teleport formation he was about to build could connect to the teleport formation in Immortal Island using space nodes. Anyway, the teleport formation in Immortal Island was a low-level one. Where is Yi Changfeng? Shiyin hesitated for a while, but couldn't help but ask. After he had known about the uniting of 9 heaven flames, which would give him a new magical destiny, from the shady firmament Old Mound, he kept thinking about it. Yi Changfeng had the purgatory true flame in his body, which was one of the heaven flames. He wanted to know if Yi Changfeng knew about these mysteries. It could be a good preparation for him in the future. He went with Li Zhengrong to the general sect of the Spirit Treasure sect. He won't come back shortly. If you don't have any important business to do, you can go there. Anyway, the current situation is a little bit special. All right, I got it. If Changfeng comes back, please tell him to visit me at the Northern Gem Mountain. I'll definitely do it for you. Since Zhu had found Shiyan's specialties in the shady firmament Old Mound, he decided to create a good relationship with Shiyan. Shiyan's potentials were too intimidating. Not only his strong fighting competence, but he also had some attainment in using space power. To young spirit realm warriors like him, Zhu always appreciated. He was clear that he had to count on Shiyan in the future. Then I'm going to leave first. Shiyan wasn't lengthy. After bidding farewell to Zhu, he left with Yu Ying and Yun Xiu to the Radiant God cult. Along the way, Yu Ying, the one who had been hostile to him, suddenly became so friendly. She often asked him about his cultivation as though she was his real precursor, guiding him step by step to help him kick away the obstacles in his cultivating path. Yu Ying's changed manners made Yun Xiu, Li Muyu, and Bai Hui Quan surprised a lot. They had a vague thought in their hearts. What happened? When we first arrived, didn't you hate him a lot? Why do you seem to turn into another person after getting out of the shady firmament Old Mound? Yun Xiu used a secret technique to talk to Yu Ying because she couldn't reason why. Yume, later on, you should be more polite to Shiyan. Don't make grudges against him. Yu Ying answered her, her beautiful eyes sparkling. Why? How can I say? His competence is really formidable. I can't tell you the details. Anyway, listen to me. You should treat him as if he's the Grand Elder. At some point in the future, you have to beg him for his favor, perhaps. Me? Begging him? Wind changes. We don't know what earth-shaking transformation will happen in the Divine Great Land. I always feel that Shiyan will be one of the most outstanding warriors in the Divine Great Land in the near future. Creating a good relationship with him shouldn't be a bad thing for you later. Yu Jia, are you sure? I'm sure. Yun Xiu didn't say anything, but waves were rising in her heart. Her sight lay on Shiyan with a different feeling. Muyu, from now on, you have to treat Shiyan as your brother. Do not provoke him. You have to establish a good relationship with him. After giving advice to Yun Xiu, Yu Ying looked at her apprentice Li Yumu, talking to her with a serious complexion. Why? Teacher, what happened to you? Li Muyu was full of grievance. Why do you have to support him? What does he have? Isn't he just a person who depends on external forces to be stronger than the others? Teacher, are you afraid of him? Stupid. Yu Ying cursed under her breath. Don't babble. You just need to remember that. Even if you have to offend the Grand Elder, you can't offend Shiyan. We can't provoke this man, understand? Li Muyu was more frightened. She had never seen her teacher angry that much. She immediately shut her mouth, didn't dare to talk more. Along the way, Yu Ying and Yun Xiu had treated Shiyan with a magically changed manner. They were friendly and caring as if Shiyan was their long-lost relative. However, this irritated Shiyan. He understood the reason why these two women had changed their attitudes to him was that she had found his secrets. To the change in their manners, he just enjoyed it naturally. He always thought about taking his relatives and friends in the Endless Sea to the Divine Great Land. Although Yun Hao had treated him well, the Radiant God cult didn't have only Yun Hao. Even if Shiyan wasn't afraid of the elders like Yu Ying, the power of his friends in the Endless Sea was much weaker than them. If Yu Ying, Yun Xiu, and the others wanted to trouble them, it would be really difficult. Shiyan wasn't a narrow-minded person. When he found that Yu Ying and Yun Xiu started to establish the relationship with him carefully, he also put away his arrogant manner. proactively talking with them. As Yu Ying and Yun Xiu could sense the changes in his manners, they felt happy, and suddenly they thought that he wasn't too bad. They were getting along well now. After they got to the northern Gem Mountain, Yu Ying pondered, then talked to Shi Yin. Earth and heaven's spiritual qi in the northern Gem Mountain is too thin. I didn't know that. That's why I'd arranged you to stay here casually. Yeah, if you agree, I will arrange a better place for you, which is much better than the northern Gem Mountain. What do you think? Thank you. You don't need to bother. I appreciate you, precursor. Already, Shi Yin smiled and denied. The northern Gem Mountain had dilute spiritual qi, but its location wasn't bad. It was pretty far from the center of the Radiant God cult, but it was close to the Spirit Treasure sect. To warriors, a place with thick spiritual qi was good for them, but if they had abundant essence qi, they didn't need to be dependent on spiritual qi of earth and heaven. Shi Yin had the Holy Spirit God who had an innate talent of gathering spiritual qi from everywhere. If he could arrange the northern Gem Mountain better, with the Holy Spirit God's assistance, he could still make some changes. And the most important thing is, this place was far from the Radiant God cult. He could do things easily without being sensed or spied on. For example, building a massive-scale teleport formation. Yu Ying and Yun Xiu didn't know why he denied their offer. They thought that he didn't want to form a connection with them. They were distressed a little bit. However, after he had explained, they felt better. What do you want to do in this remote area? Yeah. Does the cult master know what you want to do? Yu Ying was worried, couldn't help but ask. I want to keep it on the down low for a while. I think, with his wide vision, he won't mind it. Shi Yin smiled, not considering it important. Well, Yun Hao didn't even care about the fact that he could fuse the flaming sun power. Building a teleport formation to transport some warriors from the barbarian area wasn't something he would ask about. Yun Hao was a friendly and straightforward man. If Shi Yin could bring his family from the Endless Sea, they could be of assistance. As Shi Yin was a disciple of the Radiant God cult, his force was considered the Radiant God cult's. It should be a benefit to Yun Hao, though. Shi Yin used his train of thought to predict the others. He thought that if he were Yun Hao and he didn't care about the other matter, he wouldn't bother with this small thing. Yu Ying and Yun Xiu didn't know what he wanted to do, but since he didn't want to talk more, they wouldn't inquire further. They bid him farewell and hurried to report to Yun Hao on what had happened in the Shady Firmament Old Mound. As they had left, Shi Yin didn't talk more, starting to prepare to build a big teleport formation inside a mountain of the northern Gem Mountain. Chapter 594, Legend. Chapter 594, Legend. He had thoroughly learned the method to build the teleport formation in the Blacksmith's Secrets of Success. Now he just needed to practice. After the trip to the Shady Firmament Old Mound, he had another deep level of understanding of using space power, which boosted his confidence in building a teleport formation. He'd continuously stayed around 10 days inside the mountain, using the materials he got from Yixiong and Zhu Yi. He carefully refined them to meet the requirements, then inlaid them into a massive formation he had prepared beforehand. Step by step, he added the crystals with different functions, which were to pour energy into the ethereal crystals. With the earth flame, the work that needed a lot of time to other people was so smooth to him. He didn't meet any obstacles. The ores and crystals had extremely high melting points, but the earth flame could turn them into strange liquid substances and purified it to get the final form of the purest materials. While building the formation, he had wholeheartedly focused his mind, using his understanding of space power. He was neither hurried nor arrogant, just searching for possible problems to solve. After his last time of comprehending power, his soul consciousness had a magical change. When he urged it, it could cross spaces miraculously. At the same time, since his body had been washed with space power and the strenuous refining of the immortal rebirth secret, it became more tenacious. He was sure that warriors at the same spirit realm couldn't have the degree of a strong physique like him. Even the third sky of spirit realm experts couldn't have this morbid degree of physique. From the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame and the ice-cold flame, he knew that the warriors in the antiquity time had made physical training crucial to trigger the potentials of their bodies. With only the strength of their bodies, they could have an endless source of power. Antiquity warriors, even if they didn't have a beam of essence chi, they were much stronger than ordinary people. Without the essence chi, antiquity warriors could still hunt demonic beasts. They had valued physical training a lot as if it was as important as cultivating their souls. Shi Yin understood that there should be a reason for those ancient people to do so. From this thought, he had used the method to refine secret treasures to train his body to become more tenacious and maximize his body's potentials. Half a month later, magical symbols flew out from Shi Yan's eyes, forming the spiritual formation in the void, illuminating the massive scaled teleport formation in front of him. Magnificent space waves surged from his body, as if they had established a connection with the formation in front of him to urge the energy of the ethereal crystals. After those symbols had entered the big teleport formation, it began to sparkle. Countless refined translucent crystals were reflecting and illuminating the vague concept of the void. Beautiful rays and light spots shone and flashed gloriously. Shortly, Shi Yin spat out beams of crystal light energy, pouring into the altar in the center of teleport formation. He then began describing some strange space nodes inside a ring. The massive round teleport formation glowed vigorously like a fiercely bright lamp, releasing intense space fluctuations. Shi Yin walked toward the sacrificial altar. Standing on the altar made of ethereal crystals, Shi Yin scanned around the altar with clear lines of the formation everywhere. He took a deep breath. He was a little bit nervous before he activated the teleport formation. Waves of space power covered him. Inside the light curtain of space power, Shi Yin was struck as his soul sublimated. It works. He had put forth a lot of effort with many sleepless nights. At the moment he saw the light curtain, he seemed to fall into a new intent domain. His sea of consciousness surged when the space Upanishads in his host soul began heating up. In this big joy, his host soul gained another benefit as its fusion with space power was having another step forward. Standing inside the space light curtain, his face was brightened as he was filled with wisdom. Shi Yin disappeared. Immortal Island. Around 10 warriors of the Yang family were frightened, gawking at the small teleport formation. Who is he? Never met before? Why does he appear in the teleport formation? That man. Hey, I've heard about him before. He is? Who? He looks like young Master Yin. Young Master Yin? Everybody was astounded. They suddenly got excited, screaming loudly. The name Shi Yin in the Endless Sea was a legend. His existence in the Yang family was the unsurpassed glory. With the manpower of only himself, he had saved the Yang family from the abyss, making the Yangs the strongest force of the Endless Sea. His stories were exaggerated and bragged around the Endless Sea. No matter they were newcomers or the younger generations of the stronger families, they all admired and respected Shi Yin. Especially the Yang family. Are you sure he's young Master Yin? I heard that he had crossed the dark magnetic noxious mist to the divine great land, didn't he? So what? Couldn't he come back now? Right. I'm going to report now. The juniors watching the teleport hurried to report to their seniors, leaving only one behind to watch over the place. He now looked at Shi Yin with large admiration on his face. Shi Yin stood emotionlessly inside the teleport formation. Long afterwards, he opened his eyes, his face overjoyed. He'd never thought that at the moment he had activated the teleport formation, he somehow received God's help, which sublimated his soul once again. He vaguely felt that as long as he had accumulated enough essence chi, he could break through to the second sky of spirit realm. While he had been building the massive scaled teleport formation, he had a deeper understanding of space power, using the meanings and power he had comprehended to sublimate his soul, leading to the increase of his realm. He laughed contentedly. Opening his eyes, he looked at the young man in front of him and smiled. This place is the Immortal Island, right? That young man was around 17 or 18 years old, and he had an Earthrealm cultivation base. He was thrilled hearing Shi Yan's question. He nodded. Yeah, young Master Yin, this is the Immortal Island. I'm the external disciple of the Yang family. My name's Zhu Tao. Zhu Tao? Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about the Endless Sea's current situation? Shi Yin smiled, and walked with Zhu Tao to the center of the Immortal Island. He hadn't noticed that he had left the Endless Sea for several years. What happened to the Endless Sea during this time? He had no clue. Since you've left, there were not many big changes. The Yang family is still the overlord of the Endless Sea. The housemaster had broken through the second sky of Spirit Realm 1 year ago. Zhu Tao had fulfilled his responsibilities wholeheartedly, telling him all what he knew. The Endless Sea stayed the same, and the Yang family was still the sole overlord. Tang Yuan Nan of the Three Gods sect also had a breakthrough. Thanks to their alliance with the Yang family, the Three Gods sect had benefited, too. They've become one of the strongest forces in the Endless Sea. Ouyang Luo Shuang of the Three Gods sect had disappeared not long after Shi Yin left the Endless Sea. No one knew where she had gone. Xia Qingho of the Xia family had brought his family back to the Kiara Sea. They said that he had reached the third sky of Spirit Realm now. The Chao family and the Spirit Martial Palace had remained their force, but they weren't as strong as the forces in the Kiara Sea. For the Sea Tribe's undersea, they submitted to the Yang family. Sea Tribe's hotshots in the Barren City had to depend on the Yang's materials to cultivate. Although Zhu Tao was just an external disciple, he had the general picture of the Endless Sea. Shi Yin felt satisfied with his narration, discreetly nodded. Shortly, Shi Yin arrived at the meeting hall of the Yang family. Old men of the Yang family and the Shi family had arrived earlier. They were waiting for him in joy. They were all astounded as they knew Shi Yin had reached the Spirit Realm. They then acclaimed Shi Yan's terrific cultivating speed. Shi Jin and Shi Tai were at the Sky Realm. The open resources of the Yang family had given the Shi family of the Quiet Cloudland some big advantages. Soon, Dishan, Yuro, and Etianimo had come. Yang Tian Emperor had completed his patrol route. He arrived after the pagans Dishan and Yuro. They then prepared a welcome party for Shi Yin in the meeting hall of the Yangs. However, Yang Tian Emperor, Shi Jin, Dishan, and Etianimo all had a grim expression as if they had some big trouble that was weighing their hearts down. Great-grandpa, you guys seem to be having some trouble. Would you mind telling me about it? Shi Yin took a swig of his wine, frowned, then asked. A strange phenomenon has happened. I don't know what is going on. Little Yin, you've come back from the divine Great Land. Do you know anything about it? Yang Tian Emperor sighed. Half a month ago, the sun, the moon, and the stars have appeared all together in the sky. The sky hasn't restored to its regular state yet. Demon dwellers have started to gather again. I heard that some tremendous existences have appeared among them. Shi Yin was stunned. After a while, he beamed a forced smile. Oh, that's it. You know the reasons? Yang Tian Emperor sat upright. His face was grim as he had a murderous, heavy aura. Shi Yin was scared in his heart, his face astounded. He gazed at the older man. Yang Tian Emperor had only the second sky of Spirit Realm cultivation base, but the aura from him was more dangerous than that of a third sky of Spirit Realm warrior in the Divine Great Land. Rumors said that Yang Tian Emperor and Chao Qiu Dao used to absorb the blood of a God King expert, which gave them an earth-shaking transformation. The power Yang Tian Emperor had just demonstrated could only be defeated by peak experts like Yun Hao in the Divine Great Land. Arg, I heard that this change of earth and heaven somehow relates to me. Of course, it's just a joke. I think the pagan tribes are trying to wreck us. Shi Yin smiled, looking at Etianimo. I've been to the Shady Firmament Old Mound. This phenomenon has arisen from that place. Etianimo and his team were struck. They stood upright to listen to him more attentively. The Shady Firmament Old Mound was the ancestral land of the demonic Sound Clan. They had always wanted to be there. Now, as they finally had a chance to get information about the place, they couldn't press down the urging from their emotions. Chapter 595, Refining Corpses. Chapter 595, Refining Corpses. After Shi Yin finished, Etianimo and his group kept silent. They had always wanted to visit the Shady Firmament Old Mound to receive their ancestors' inheritance, taking the written charm scripture, which would help their clan thrive and be stronger. However, from Shi Yan's explanation, They knew that the Ghost Mark clan had been in the shady firmament Old Mound for quite a long time, and they were a branch of the Ghost Mark clan. However, after so many years, they had lost the ghost tattoos, the source of their power. Now they only had a weak physique and a strong soul. Without the ghost tattoos, they were incomplete. It would be hard to be accepted by the Ghost Mark clan. According to Shi Yin, the Ghost Mark clan hated all kinds of creatures. They would be taking action shortly to make blood rain over the divine Great Land. It wasn't what they wanted. The Ghost Mark clan was extreme to them. This is the situation. The relationship between you guys and the Ghost Mark clan is complicated. If you want to be recognized by them, you can go to the shady firmament Old Mound. I won't hinder you guys. Etionimo and the other two kept silent. After a long while, Etionimo said, "We want to think about it more carefully. And the changes of earth and firmament energy seems to benefit us. Strong yin qi is diffusing. It accelerates our cultivating speed." Shi Yan's complexion had a slight change. "Not only them, we feel the same," said Dishan. Etionimo and Dishan were from the alien tribes. The structure of their bodies and the ways they cultivated were different from that of humans. The changes of earth and heaven had facilitated their cultivation by providing a more suitable environment. However, this wasn't a good sign. Yang Tian Emperor was sensitive enough to sense the danger. He darkened his face and didn't say anything. The heave gate that connects to the fourth demon area in the Yang family had exploded. Devil chi permeates from there is really thick. We can see a big space crack, too. Now, there's no barrier between the Endless Sea and the fourth demon area. Their hotshots can easily enter our territory, said Yang Zhua begrudgingly. There should be a big change in the fourth demon area, nodded Yang Tian Emperor. Not only the fourth demon area, Tang Yuan Nan told me that the seven-layered underworld is the same. The heaven gate there is destroyed too, and dark chi is raising vehemently from the sea. Moreover, Tang Yuan Nan said that the dark sea of the seven-layered underworld had some terrifying change. The aura of the underworld has been exuding from the downstream of the dark sea. Perhaps the bottom of the underworld has been broken. The bottom of the underworld? What's going on? Shi Yin asked suspiciously. The seven-layered underworld has 7 layers, of course, but only the 4 top layers are normally revealed. The 3 bottom layers are sealed. According to the Dark Dwellers, the 3 bottom layers of the underworld are their paradise, where it has the strongest treasures and the sole inheritance of the Dark Clan. Perhaps some experts of the Dark Clan have still survived. Yang Tian Emperor became stern. Shi Yan's eyes sparkled. He took a deep breath then said, "Seems like the Endless Sea can't maintain its peace." Yang Tian Emperor nodded. "Although I don't know what is going on, from the signs we have now, the entire Grace mainland is also having a great change. Great-grandpa, the forces in the Endless Sea aren't strong enough to encounter that change. I think we should mobilize a part of our lower realm members to the divine Great Land. I have a territory in the Radiant God cult." Shi Yin tried to convince him. It was beyond his expectation. Yang Tian Emperor nodded generously. "Kid, you're excellent. You can even build a teleport formation. Well done. Well done. Anyway, the divine Great Land is the center where martial arts are spread wide with so many experts. I do want to take the Yang family there. Your intended deed suits my wish well." Shi Yin was cheered up. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. Yun Hao, the cult master of the Radiant God cult, isn't a narrow-minded person. He would welcome us all. Yeah, great-grandpa, you should contact Tang Yuan Nan and tell him to move his 3 gods sect there, too. The 3 gods sect's a part of the Radiant God cult. They will accept them easily." "Okay, I'll arrange it," nodded Yang Tian Emperor. "Through many years, we've collected a big amount of cultivating materials from the Endless Sea and the fourth demon area. Even if we move to the divine Great Land, we won't be too poor. It's enough to give us a prosperous life. But yeah, I need time to prepare." Shi Yin smiled. Next, he discussed with Yang Tian Emperor and Shi Jian about their family business. He had asked for Qing Ming's whereabouts then left quietly. Qing Ming was in a burial area of the Corpse God sect. Since Corpse Mount and Corpse Sea had become the leaders of the Corpse God sect, Qing Ming lost his power. The corpse slaves had been enslaved for many years now became the disciples, and their old masters were kicked out. The burial place where Qing Ming was staying had many human disciples of the corpse god sect. Unfortunately, they didn't have the corpse slaves to use. Corpse Mount and Corpse C had defeated him in the game of power, so now he had to bring his human disciples out of the center of the sect to a remote area to survive. Corpse Mount and Corpse C then ruled the corpse god sect, making them raise up slowly, becoming the most peculiar force in the endless sea. They were just a little bit weaker than the Kiara Sea. Today, Qing Ming with his wicked eyes was listening to the report from his elders in the burial area. The more he listened, the more irritated he felt. What did you say? Did you get it wrong? There are so many corpse slaves here. How could they all have intellect? Qing Ming opened his eye wide, squawking. Liu smiled bitterly. It's true. I've received the news saying that the corpse slaves in the other burials areas have started to have wisdom. Their living forms seem to have made some changes quietly. Their soul fluctuations are even more special than ours. How could it be? Qing Ming was fierce. The corpse slaves are made from dead bodies. Basically, they don't have souls. How could they have such a strange change? I thought only Corpse C and Corpse Mount got their intellect and soul through some F*King method, right? I'm not sure. Liu was full of suspicion. The method we used to control the corpse slaves has started to lose its effect, too. We don't have any bind to the corpse slaves anymore. And I tried to use the corpse control technique from a distance, but I got backbite. My spirit got hurt badly. Qing Ming was dumbstruck. He had never imagined that the corpse slaves that he had enslaved now all had the significant change. Not only the strong ones, but even the lowest grade corpse slave also started to have wisdom. This kind of change was far beyond his knowledge. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. From deep inside his pupils, green flames flickered like lightning flash. Then, a thought dispersed. Earth and heaven has had a great change. The energy of earth and heaven isn't the same anymore. The corpse clan is about to awaken. They will become stronger. This is unavoidable. You don't need to worry much. The corpse vanishing flames thought rose in Qing Ming's sea of consciousness. Qing Ming was struck. The sun, moon, and the stars all appeared in the sky, and they hadn't moved yet. Qing Ming had observed this phenomenon. From the way the corpse vanishing flame talked, the corpse slaves getting intellect was related to the change of heaven and earth, which surprised him a lot. What's happened? Do you want to take control of the corpse god sect again? The corpse vanishing flame didn't answer but asked him instead. Retake the control? Do you have any means? Qing Ming was stunned. You make yourself a corpse. At that time, you can fuse completely with me. Then, you will become a member of the corpse clan. With my assistance, you will surpass Corpse Mount and Corpse C soon and become the chief of the new corpse clan's generation. How does it sound? The corpse vanishing flame guided him through the steps, trying to entice him. What? Making me a corpse? Qing Ming discolored in fright. The light in his eyes scattered as he couldn't keep his mind calm. Yeah, you have to refine yourself to be a corpse. The corpse clan's one of the 10 antiquity clans. They are much stronger than you humans. The energy of earth and heaven wasn't suitable for them to grow. But it has changed now. As long as you agree to do that, I'm sure you can take back the corpse god sect and even the entire continent. If only you become a corpse, you can fuse with me completely to promote my power to the acme. And I know some supernatural Upanishads of the corpse clan. When you become a corpse, you can practice it. Qing Ming was stunned. He was in a daze and didn't move an inch. The reason why he could become the master of the corpse god sect was that he had barged into a random burial area and got the corpse vanishing flame there. Afterward, he had practiced the corpse control technique fluently, which made him, the smallest disciple of the corpse god sect, become a powerful master. He knew that all of what he got today was all because of the corpse vanishing flame. Unfortunately, until now, he hadn't completely fused with the corpse vanishing flame. They just had a relationship of cooperation. Qing Ming knew the secrets that had been passed through generations since the antiquity time. He knew that if he could fuse with the heaven flame, he could gain a greater benefit. He had thought about that, but he had no means to carry it out. Today, the corpse vanishing flame had suggested him to become a corpse, which would facilitate him to fuse with the flame and receive the inheritance of the corpse clan. He didn't know whether it was true or not. However, he was enticed, and he wanted to do that. Corpse clan. Chief of the corpse clan. Unite the entire continent. Qing Ming muttered. Deep green light sparkled from deep inside his pupils. His soul consciousness and will were gradually affected. He was still pondering. Slowly, he was in a state as if his soul was taken away. He strolled unknowingly toward the area which was used to refine the corpses. Along the way, many disciples looked at him with fright. However, the green corpse vanishing flame had covered them before they could come near Qing Ming. Not long after that, they became cold dead bodies. A bizarre aura diffused from them. Their soul didn't perish, but they were changing quietly as if they had a special transformation. Disciples standing on Qing Ming's path all turned into corpses. Qing Ming walked lonely toward the refining area. He sat in a coffin and activated the formation to refine the corpse. Corpse aura torrentially exuded from the ground. It burst out from the underground of the burial area. It was then collected and poured into his coffin through countless thin pipes. Qing Ming sat there. He didn't even move an inch. The corpse vanishing flame in his eyes were so excitedly as if it was taking in Qing Ming's soul to carry out the heaven flame's transformation. The sky above the burial area had numerous silver light dots as earth and heaven aura was changing, shining on this place, overflowing Qing Ming's coffin. The strange, evil corpse refining process started. Chapter 596, Corpse Clan. Chapter 596, Corpse Clan. Shi Yin came back to the Endless Sea to move the Yang family to the Divine Great Land. Also, there was another reason for his visit. The corpse vanishing flame. The corpse vanishing flame ranked last among the heaven flames. Qing Ming, the master of the corpse god sect, had the flame, but he was weak. He couldn't counter Shi Yin directly. Shi Yin thought that it would be easy to take the corpse vanishing flame from him. Shi Yin went to the burial area where Qing Ming was secluded alone. He released his soul consciousness to sense. His face changed immediately. There's no aura of living people here. According to Yang Tian Emperor, this burial area was the gathering place of human disciples in the corpse god sect. There should be many disciples of the corpse god sect, whom Qing Ming was managing as the sect master. However, his soul consciousness could sense only dense corpse qi. The aura permeating the area was evil and gloomy. It's the particular fluctuation of the corpse slaves. His brows slammed together. He walked around the burial area. Indeed, he found many newly created corpse slaves. They didn't have consciousness, just laid on the cold, hard ground. Their clothes looked shabby as if the wind had worn them out. Their skin glowed with strange phosphorescent light. After the earth and heaven aura energy changed, it was full of yin qi and corpse qi, falling from the sky like the raindrops, scattering on the corpses. Deep underground in the burial area, yin qi and corpse qi blended together. Dark green mist diffused, covering the newly formed corpses. Yin qi, corpse qi, and the energy of earth and heaven had mixed all together, creating green threads that naked eyes could observe, crawling on the corpse's skin. Then, they moved in a special trajectory, entering the corpses. After that, those green threads fused with their bones and flesh and were starting to improve their functions. A fierce fluctuation came from a place deep inside the burial area. The energy in the sky showered toward a direction like a heavy rain. Shi Yin arched his brows, his face cold. He disappeared immediately. Countless strange patterns were crawling on an ancient coffin. Beams of peculiar energy got into the coffin as though they were like a nest of spiritual snakes. The coffin then exuded an icy, devil aura that irritated the souls. His soul consciousness moved swiftly like electric currents through the coffin. Shi Yin snorted, swinging his arm. Countless beams of light entangled the coffin lid and furiously lifted it up. Corpse qi overflowed from the coffin, revealing the writhed body of Qing Ming. He looked pale with no vitality. His sinister, green pupils gazed at Shi Yin. "You are not him," Shi Yin sneered, nodded to the corpse. "Seems Qing Ming had fallen into your sinister trap." "Yeah, it's okay, anyway. Even if you didn't take action, I would have done that." "Well, since you've taken his home, we can talk then." "Mwahaha. What do you want to talk about?" The corpse vanishing flame beamed a cold, wicked smile. The green flame inside the pupils of the distorted face shot out. Outside the burial area, more than 10 new corpse slaves slowly got up, circling Shi Yin. Each corpse slave shot out a deep green light. More than 10 beams interweaved, covering Shi Yin like a spider web. Dense corpse chi waves expanded. It seemed to form a big, ancient corpse refining formation. Shi Yin wanted to talk, but now he had to change his face to a colder expression. He could feel the corpse chi rolling toward him from everywhere, creating the magical great corpse refining formation, which affected his sea of consciousness and his soul. It started to erode his body, preventing him from moving his essence chi. This is the corpse refining 9 revolution formation of the corpse clan. In the antiquity time, the corpse clan had used this formation to refine the living creatures into their fellows and enslave them. The corpse vanishing flame was as calm as a cunning, experienced hunter. After it had arranged everything, it said casually, "I know you have the ice-cold flame. Too bad. You didn't fuse your soul with it. That flame is ranked above me, but it had been damaged badly. It isn't as strong as I am now. Mwahaha. Let me take you." The corpse vanishing flame laughed evilly. Clusters of corpse clan's secret symbols sparkled in its deep green pupils, then shot out like the starlight toward the corpse slaves out there. After the corpse slaves received the power of the corpse vanishing flame, they were stirred up. Magical soul fluctuations rippled from their tranquil heads, as if they had just resurrected from death. This is really shamanistic. The great corpse refining formation was formed by the corpse aura of the 10 corpse slaves. However, when these 10 corpses were awakened, the formation was complete. It then could release the erosive soul aura, covering Shi Yin. Flows of erosive corpse chi entangled him like the rough ropes. The aura of the refining formation affected his sea of consciousness. Corpse chi had entered his sea of consciousness, stirring it up as if it was about to change. In his sea of consciousness, flows of corpse chi started to dissolve his sea of consciousness. It was about to erode Shi Yin's host soul. All of a sudden, the inner world 5 devils stormed out from a deep place in his sea of consciousness. They then furiously swallowed all the corpse chi. Shi Yin's countenance didn't change. Fiery flame burst out from his body. His pores became blazing hot. He looked like an erupting volcano, burning the intruding corpse chi into white smoke. His star martial spirit moved. The Big Dipper God arrow was activated. The Big Dipper bow was condensed in front of Shi Yin. He installed the Big Dipper arrow, adding the flaming power and his soul consciousness energy. The Big Dipper arrow fired in the void, dragging a really long flaming tail. It crossed the space and exploded directly on Qing Ming's body. Numerous rays of light and the flaming sun power covered Qing Ming's body and the host of the corpse vanishing flame. The flaming sun and the star energy bursted off instantly, which damaged Qing Ming's body severely. Burn! 5 flames shot out from Shi Yin's fingers. They coiled around Qing Ming immediately. Fiery flames were the nemesis of corpses. Qing Ming's body hadn't been transformed into a complete corpse. Under the furious burning energy of the earth flame and the flaming sun, its cold corpse chi was dissolved quickly. Not long afterward, Qing Ming's body was charred like a burned tree. Seems your lodging process isn't complete yet, and you haven't fused Qing Ming's soul altogether. Well, you're your bad luck, though. Shi Yin said nonchalantly, then continued to release his flaming sun energy. Clusters of sunlight fired from between his hands, bombarding Qing Ming. The earth and heaven had a strange phenomenon where the sun, the moon, and the stars all appeared at the same time in the sky. As a warrior with the star martial spirit, he was sensitive enough to see the good opportunity. The absorbing speed of the star and the sun energy of his martial spirit was more than 10 times faster. Anyway, after the earth and heaven had a strange change, His star martial spirit seemed to change accordingly, which terrified him a lot. In the past, he didn't dare to waste the sun energy in his body, but now he didn't need to care about that anymore. Flaming sun energy balls, as big as the fist, bombarded and exploded in Qingming's body successively. Whenever he released the flaming sun energy, his absorbing speed of the flaming sun would accelerate several times. The energy he had consumed was refilled shortly, condensing into the small sun in his heart. In vague sensing, he knew that his star martial spirit had evolved. However, unfortunately, he didn't know how they graded the star martial spirit, nor the difference after it had developed. Roar, roar. The 5 devils were roaring, soaring out of his sea of consciousness. They looked like 5 gray tornadoes flying toward the different directions to deal with the corpse slaves that only had their intellect. Shi Yin was struck. He could sense some changes in his sea of consciousness. At the same time, a clear, crisp cracking sound echoed from the blood vein ring on his finger as if some barrier had been broken. Qingming was burned into ashes. A gloomy green flame, as big as a palm, flew out from Qingming's body. The blood vein ring shot out 5 colored beams, creating a cage imprisoning that green flame, slowly dragging it toward the ring. What's that? No. New. The corpse vanishing flame was terrified. It was continually releasing the soul fluctuations in an attempt to escape. However, under the light of the blood vein ring, it couldn't get what it wanted. The ring slowly pulled it away. Shortly, the corpse vanishing flame disappeared into the blood vein ring. Shi Yin was struck hard. He immediately sensed a flow of memory flooding his brain. The corpse god sect. Corpse Mount and Corpse C were sitting in the middle of a white bone pile, opening their mouths to take in the phosphorescent light from the bones, their faces satisfied. The white bones looked like jade with sparkling phosphorescent light. These bones had Densine Qi. Each of them was giant, around 30 meters long. Obviously, they weren't from humans. No one knew where Corpse Mount and Corpse C had picked up those bones. While they were taking in the phosphorescent light, their bodies were exuding a faint white mist, which functioned like a net collecting the yin qi in the sky. More than 1,000 corpse slaves were surrounding Corpse Mount and Corpse C. All of them had the solemn countenance, as if they all had intelligence. Around 10 corpse slaves stood nearest to Corpse Mount and Corpse C. They were wearing snow-white armor, which was made of strange jade. They formed a group. Another group of 10 corpse slaves was discussing with each other, using a strange language. They all had a surprised look. When they looked at Corpse Mount and Corpse C, they were full of respect. This group of nearly 1,000 corpse slaves, at the moment the earth and heaven had changed, had gained their wisdom. Their path of life evolution had opened. All of a sudden, Corpse Mount and Corpse C seemed to sense something. They both jolted up in the middle of the white bone piles. They frowned, looking in a general direction. It's our benefactor. Yeah, it's him. We should go find him. Okay. Corpse Mount and Corpse C exchanged some utterances, then flew out, darting like lightning toward the burial area where Shi Yin was standing. Many corpse slaves standing near the giant bones pile released their soul fluctuations, taking in the energy from those white bones. While the corpse slaves were taking in the energy from the white bones, the energy in their bodies started to change. Their intelligence was increasing. Those corpse slaves started to understand simple language, and they could talk to each other. It seemed, at the moment that they were awakened, they had turned into a kind of high-grade life form. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.